and gentlemen, welcome to the home of theatre arts in Barbados, the Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre. Before we begin, kindly take note of a few housekeeping matters. No eating or drinking is permitted in the theatre. Our restroom facility is located on the ground floor. In the unlikely event of an emergency, at the sound of the alarm, you will be required to vacate the building through the nearest exit, all of which are clearly identified. In all emergency evacuations, you must use the stairs and not the elevator. The official assembly point is the gazebo. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and do enjoy the event.
Good evening, everyone. I would ask you to please stand for the national anthem. Good evening once again. You can have your seats. My name is Keishawn Waldron, and my job tonight is to give the opening remarks, and I will begin that. But first of all, I want to sincerely express my apologies for the late start. With that said, I can get into the opening remarks. Now, good evening, everyone. Good evening to the distinguished panelists. Good evening to the esteemed guests, as well as our fellow young people that are here present tonight. And we are gathered here at an important time, at a time when the voices and the aspirations of our youth are more crucial now than ever before. And this National Youth Panel discussion is a testament to our commitment of empowering young people and providing a platform for their ideas and perspectives that they may have. And tonight we will be having 3 panel discussions. And the topics that we will be discussing involve the first panel discussion, which is sports and culture, which would be followed by technological advancement. And then the last panel discussion is going to be opportunities, sustainability, and resilience within Barbados. And by discussing these areas, we will be looking at the diverse interests, the talents, and the challenges that are facing our youth today. And our panelists will each have a chance to share the insights, the experiences, and the visions that they have for the future. At this point in time, I want to encourage all of you as guests to actively participate in the dialogue that we will be having tonight, to ask questions, to share the thoughts and engage with the panelists. And as we do so together, we can create a vibrant and constructive conversation. At this point again, I would thank you, and I look forward to a stimulating and productive evening. But before we get right into the panel discussion of sports, we will be having entertainment by Bit.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. I'm a friendly stranger in a black sedan. Won't you hop inside my car? I got pictures, I got candy, I'm a lovable man, and I can take you to the nearest star. I'm your vehicle, baby. I take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. So by now I'm sure you know that I need you, and I want you, and I want to, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. You know I do. And if you wanna be just a movie star, well, I can take you to Hollywood. And if you wanna be just the way you are, well, I guess that you really should. I'm your vehicle, baby. I take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. So by now I'm sure you know that I need you, and I want you, and I want to, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. You know I do. I'm a friendly stranger in a black sedan. Won't you hop inside my car? I got pictures, I got candy, I'm a lovable man, and I can take you to the nearest star. I'm your vehicle, baby. I take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. So by now I'm sure you know that I need you, and I want you, and I want to, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. Well, I need you, and I want you, and I want to, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. You know I do. Well, I need you, and I want you, and I want to, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. You know I do. Well, I need you, and I want you, and I want to, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. You know I do. You know I do. You know I do. No, I do. No, I do. Well, I need you, and I want you, and I want to, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. Thank you.
That was a fantastic performance by Bit Bit. I was actually beginning to think for a second that we may need to begin in like a little crop over session, right? At this time, I would like to call forth LaShonta, Miss LaShonta Griffith, who will be leading off the first panel discussion, which is sports.
So good night, everybody. How are you guys tonight? All right, so good night all. As he said, my name is LaShonta Griffith, and I am your moderator tonight as we discuss youth, sports, and culture. The panelists for this discussion tonight are Minister of Youth, Sports, and Community Empowerment, the Honorable Charles Griffith. Thank you. You can join us up here in these very comfortable chairs. We also have the Chief Executive Officer of LR Entertainment, Mr. Rico Bradshaw. Physical education teacher and coach, Ms. Nikita Wickham. Sports activist, Mr. Tahir Babulia. And artist development consultant and event specialist, Mr. Dwayne Grisette. So thank you all for joining me on this panel. So to kick things off, we want to talk all things sports. So with the 2024 Olympics recently concluding, we have heard many Barbadians on social media, on the call-in programs, saying that if the youth had more innovation and they had more access to resources, that maybe we could have had a larger contingent. We want to hear your responses to that and how can we build on having more persons at the LA Olympics in 2028. Open to the panel.
In my opinion, as a physical education teacher, I believe that it starts in the school and what we do from primary level through to secondary and onward. And when I say this, I'm referring to something called an LTAD model, an athlete development model that we as a nation need to embody in each entity, from school to sports council to the Ministry of Education to the national federations. Everybody needs to be on board in knowing what their roles are in the development process of the athlete, as well as knowing what level of development the athlete should be by a certain age. And once we are able to put something like that in place, and we are all on the same page, because I find that is a major challenge as a teacher being in the field, that everyone has a difference in opinion on what should occur, and we are not working together as one in developing the athlete. So once we get models in place that we are all cohesive and we know our roles, and we are constantly, because we need to meet, we need to have these discussions, and we're constantly in communication to make sure we are on track with identifying talent, knowing, well, these students need to be, or these children need to be exposed to a particular program or development program in the community to have the extra work to, all right, we need to get them on a national team, where they get exposed to a coach who's trained and certified in their area of coaching to then carry them on to the next level. Let's get them on a scholarship where they can go overseas and have additional coaching and experience, because as you would have said, we lack infrastructure here in the island. And if you realize, most of our athletes who excel are athletes who have at some point or the other gone overseas and then represented the country, coming back home to represent the country, being true to your roots. Unfortunately, we have lost athletes as well due to the fact that they did have to go overseas to experience proper infrastructure and training. For instance, Joffrey Arthur and Christopher, I call him Christopher because we went to school. Yes, Chris Jordan, because we went to school together, so I know him. But those athletes then had to look for other means of progressing into professional athlete, the professional athlete role. And we want to be able to have something that's so attractive that when you go, you are willing to come back, because you know that there's a path charted for you to excel. And that's something that we need to work on as a nation.
Yes, Minister or Mr. Bobulia, would you like to respond?
Sure. I'm hearing what the young lady is saying, and there's so much as far as this is concerned, sports. I think we need to use a holistic approach in terms of how we treat the sports in Ireland, and government is doing that. And let me explain. We have a situation where, yes, the Olympics just happened, and everybody is seeing the Olympics as track and forgetting field. Yeah, so we tie everything to, so we say we need a national stadium, of course we do. But the Olympics is about track and field. And I have not heard the questions as to why it is that we don't have anyone competing in the field events.
Yeah.
There's javelin, there's shot put, there's long jump, there's high jump. So the other thing that and she touched on it briefly, I think we are starting too late in terms of how we treat our athletes on the island. I had a meeting with Leah Martindale, and I was asking her, well, at what age should we be looking to get individuals involved in swimming? And she shocked me when she said between 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Because we don't ever see that age as a starting point. We look at 10 to 11-year-olds, secondary school. The other thing is that one of the things that I have been criticized for, and I will continue to say, if you are looking at a world-class athlete, you must match that individual to a world-class coach. Yeah. And I was kind of shocked when at NAPSAC, and I asked, do we have anybody who's doing talent identification? And I was told no. But this is the incubator for our sports. This is track, mainly. But no one was there to identify Dwayne as a possible long-distance runner. I'm sorry, sir. Maybe I should say sprinter. But we need to have persons who will go at Usain Bolt or when the stadium is rebuilt to look, a set of persons, coaches, to say, look, this is somebody that we should try to engage and to see how we can develop their skill sets. So I think until we start the process of one, talent identification, and to look at our athletes in terms of who is the best fit. Now, one of the things that I have said in public, and I'm waiting until the officials from the BOA return, is that we now need to look at a 4-year cycle and to, forgive me, but to cherry pick those persons and maybe teams who we believe can do podium or do national records or PBs going forward. It can't be a situation where it is like, an open situation, whosoever will, we're just funding them. I will stop there and give the others and I'll come back.
No problem. Mr. Bobulia?
Good evening, everyone. And first of all, let me thank the BYDC for inviting me to speak tonight. And do let me apologize, because I kind of feel, when you go to a party and you're underdressed, Minister in a suit, Dwayne in a polo shirt. When my hair, he always dressed hard. Giovanni in a suit. But, and Lashana, you look very nice. So let me apologize, but it was kind of last minute. But all jokes aside, we got to look at as Minister said and as my colleague said, we got to look at the reality of where we are as it relates to sports in Barbados. Quite unfortunately, as we know, sports is not an industry. We have a cricketing industry. We have a motorsports industry. We have a road tennis industry. We have, to a lesser extent, a footballing industry. But we don't have a holistic sports industry. So until we start developing pathways, one, for our athletes, that they can then come from the primary school level to secondary school to tertiary institutions, and then that is where, as Minister knows, and he said as well, and he said in the past, the fall off is usually after secondary school. Right. So what are we doing within our tertiary institutions to then further develop our athletes? And not just athletics as it relates to the Olympics, but the wider sports as well. So until we start developing pathways that our athletes, our students more so, students first and then athletes after, can see the pathway for them to a successful career in sports, then that's when we can start talking. And there's a similar conversation in culture as well. There's a similar conversation in the arts. So, but then it forces me to ask the question of where is sports as a pillar of our economy? Sports on a whole. Yeah. Take out cricket, as I say, take out those sports that I mentioned. We have a very small scale economy in Barbados. So if we have to really and truly look at the priorities within our economy, tourism, that's the major source of income. And then we look at investment inwards. And then we look at culture. Then we look at the other pillars of our manufacturing, the other pillars of our economy. Sports is the only pecking order. So when I talk to persons and tell them before, I was like, yeah, we need to develop sports as a pillar of our economy. Yes, sports can help health. Sports can help crime. Sports can build the culture in Barbados. But then I got to force myself to ask, where are we at as it relates to sports in Barbados? We have now, only recently since 2013 at UE started producing sports professionals, sports managers, sports scientists, sport coaches. We had coaches before, but were they qualified enough in those areas for development to take place? At BCC, probably going back 20 years, physical education and sports management. And now you have the bachelors at BCC in sports management. So now we are churning out sports professionals. So As we know, we're behind the 8 ball, but we're making progress. So each year at UE, in my year, we had about 25 students graduating. So on average, each year coming out of the sports science degree, 25. But then to filter into the system, you're going to take about 10 to 15 years to get into the system. So that is why at UE, what we did was we developed the program called Breaking Barriers Through Sports Development. We didn't do it on the field, but we did it off the field. How can we create a mindset of seeing that pathway, of seeing the benefit of sports development to a country, to a people? So that, I think, we got to deal with reality. We can't deal with what's happening in Jamaica. We can't deal with what's happening in the US because they have the resources, they have the investment, quite unfortunate, and they have, in reality, larger scale economies.
Okay.
So until we could deal with where we at, that's not making an excuse for anybody, but we gotta be real as to where we at. And I don't feel we be real enough. We like to say this is what we need. We want gold medalists. We want these people to medal. But the reality is we might not be there as yet. Yes, we're gonna have a talent like Obadeli, or you can have the talent like Sade that can be the cream of the crop, that can be above the rest. But we don't have that pathway as yet. And we don't have the resources to put into the development in a large and significant way. That aside, on the other side of the coin, if we're gonna take the pathway and the sports development seriously, then we gotta look at innovative ways that you mentioned to bring in the money for the economy. So cricket does it. Cricket brings in money for the economy. And I get some lashes for this, where the person asked me, well, cricket does get all the money. Why not the other sports? I said, well, cricket is bringing the most money to the country. Correct, Minister?
Yep.
Huh?
You gotta look at how much
Endorsements,
is put
etc.
into it to be able to do so.
So it's not only what's being put into it, but it's what's bringing back into the country. So if you deal with the economics of the country, you got to look at what's being brought back in. It's, at the end of the day, for a government, it is return on investment. And I only learned that as I have come out of university and dealt within the system. So I can part that idea for right now. Right? So, but as I said, if we're going to seriously take sports as a pillar for the economy, we're going to have to look at now innovative ways to bring the sports economy into a circular fashion.
And I think what is interesting that everyone mentioned is how we need to have a holistic approach. So, Minister, you would have mentioned about talent identifiers at NAPSAC, and before Ms. Wickham, you would have mentioned about having the holistic program as it pertains to education. My question to you is, how can we achieve both these things? And looking forward into 2028, what are some of the initiatives and programs that need to be started as soon as humanly possible?
I would like to agree with my colleague on focusing on all of the sports and not just one or two of the entities. I believe that going into communities, well, first of all, let me backtrack. Using the persons coming out of the programs at the university and the different areas to facilitate growth in having certified coaches being utilized. As he's saying, it is very hard as someone coming out of UE, or you go overseas, you get your degree, you come back, and then there's no opportunity to use your skills, and you're ending up in fields which have nothing to do with sport. What you are passionate about, you're not able to put it out to the universe. As he said, being innovative. Once you've been exposed to a certain level of education and a certain, like, for instance, he's saying his group of colleagues at school formed a group and they used to bounce ideas off of each other. I would say once you're exposed to that type of community, your brain is open to a lot more innovative ways to train and get the results you need out of your athletes. So let's start with saying, utilize programs with certified coaches in the communities, because yes, in school, you have access to the students from 9 till 3. But majority of the work that they're going to need is going to happen outside of school. In school is not for sport development. In school is for fundamental skill development. My role as a PE teacher is to make sure that you can hop, skip, jump. Yeah. Your role as a coach is to make sure that the child understands the way to, the technique behind the sport that they're interested in. with programs, because once upon a time, we did very good with having community programs available to athletes.
Yes.
I would find that now you hardly see that happening. I've seen the Sports Council and the government making an effort to refurbish a lot of these venues around the island. I commend them for that, but then what's happening with them?
Yeah.
Are they just going to be there pretty sitting? Having access to these facilities are also very challenging. You have to go through hoops, ropes. Like, it is not as simple as go out there and use it. And then the other challenge is the lack of facilities to facilitate all of the different sports. So netball and volleyball is going to use the same court that you have available in the community. So let's say one that was refurbished recently was Huddleston Tourney. If I am a netball coach and I'm interested in using Huddleston Tourney to begin a developmental program, I have to share that coach with the volleyball coach from the area who's also interested in doing the developmental program. If I'm doing cricket, I'm going to clash with football, and this is something that we experience. Anytime you're interested in starting a program, that's one of the biggest setbacks, because then how do we begin? Where do we start? Where can we go? And you can't expect that. Well, when looking at our economic situation in the island, we are going to pull most of our athletes from middle to lower class, if we are being honest. And most parents are going to say, I can't afford to send them from here to another playing field in another parish. So those are things that prove as challenges to persons who are interested in doing these programs as well. But back onto the point, yes. I think we need to have more developmental programs in the communities, but first we need to find out or come up with a way that all of the sports can benefit. Mr. Griffith would have said earlier that Olympics is track and field. It's not. Olympics is many sports. It is volleyball, it is basketball, it is football. There are so many other sports which can be developed to the level of Olympic athletes. And we need to be able to spread that interest or spread that availability to all of the sports to see what can come out of it, not just track and field. So let's start with the communities. Let's start with trying to get NSC backing to helping identify talent. I remember growing up, we would have had Sports Council pulling athletes which were athletes of interest to create teams which would then progress into national teams, and then we progress onward. That doesn't happen anymore. So let's work on bringing back something to that effect to start the ball rolling.
I want to respond. It's a good thing my PS is here, because what it's saying to me is that we need a bigger PR campaign. Now, we are in the final stages of our community sports program, meaning that about 25 or so of the officers who work on the ground in the ministry would have identified groups within different communities across the island. And we have paid for coaches to go in and to deliver the rudiments of different sports. So we are at the community level. One of the things I believe is that we need to have that groundswell of sports at the community level, the grassroots level. Yeah. And the reason why I'm saying that we need a PR campaign is because we are trying to be as proactive as possible within the ministry. And we have started something called a community coaches program, which is outside of the National Sports Council. So if the four of you have indicated an interest in football, we have started a program where, and you're from different communities across the country, huh? We have started a program with the coaches where we've asked them to come in. We will train you at the basic level. If it's level 1, you start at level 1. You go back to your community, you identify a group, and you hone your skills as a coach. And one of the things that you do after that, you come back to us and say, well, look, I have been working with this group for X amount of time. We train you a little further, so you move to level 2. And this is happening because we have the facilities, we have the playing fields, we have the hard courts, and therefore we need to have activities at this location. So a decision was taken we are going to have a community coaches program that is outside the remit of the National Sports Council. And by doing that, one of the things that we're doing is widening the base in terms of sports on the island. So you may have a community, so that I don't get, let me say St. John, let me be safe. You may have a community like St. John where there's no sporting activities happening at all, which is not the case. But I would identify, or two coaches would say, look, we need this particular training because we're going to start a basketball program at Gull Hill. We're going to start a netball program. And from that, which is happening now, I have about 30 or so young females being coached by a guy who has nothing to do with the Sports Council. And we provide that opportunity for these coaches to go back into the community and have that groundswell. So we need to promote it because if, you know, what you're saying,
that's not available, and
you obviously don't know about it, and this is something that is happening. Every single year, that community sports program is put on in conjunction with culture. There's a cultural component where we do dance and drama, but there's a sporting side of it as well. And when I use the field events, it was just an example. I'm fully aware that, you know, all of those different disciplines are part of the process.
In response to the community programs and the okay, so we have the floor now, we have the live television here now. As a coach, I am a volleyball player first. I still play sports. I'm very active in sports, but I believe in, as you said, the developmental stages. So I'm more focused on younger ones and getting them prepared to go forward. So with that being said, the BVA was trying to work along with me to start a program. And one of the issues we would have faced again was sharing court time. Yes, there was someone already there, but in my opinion, we can share space, yes, but it's hard to, when you have difference in coaching styles, share a space. If you have, for instance, you might be teaching volleyball, I'm teaching volleyball. Your coaching style may not be my coaching style. So we can't necessarily work in the same space at the same time. You still want your own ability to groom your athletes as best as you can without the interference of others. That's the challenge I face. That's a real challenge because I have not been able to start the volleyball program to date because of the timing and lack of, unfortunately, equipment. Still waiting on equipment, still waiting on the opportunity to do it, and this is something that I know is a real challenge for more than just me. And it's not that we're not, and I have the coaching experience already as, well, the basic coaching training, but I still was not made aware of this program either. This was something that my association came to me because I shared the interest to them. But that's what I'm saying, now you're here, and we have a live stream. I'm pretty sure there are many other coaches out there just like me who want to make a difference, who want to give of their experience and groom children into the athletes we know that we have available on island to be professional athletes, but we don't know the path, we don't know the yeah.
All right, let me share with you, and for the first time in the history of this country, and I dare say in the Caribbean, government made $25,000 available to every single national federation on island for developmental purposes. So in order to source that money, you had to provide a developmental program from your national federation in terms of how you're going to treat to developing talent on island. So that $25,000, and note that there's some federations who probably still have not submitted a developmental program, right? But we get penalized for development. In addition to that, if you were registered with one of those, as a club, with one of those national federations, government turned around and gave you $5,000 in kind. So you just indicated that there was a dearth of equipment for you to start. If you were registered with you had $5,000 to get volleyballs, whatever it is, cones you wanted, these type of things. So The assistance is there from government. I have been asking from the time I took up the chair as Minister for Private Sector to come on board. We're pouring from the same cup, and it's impossible for us to do everything as a government because of the many disciplines that we have on island. But there's certain things that are put in place to develop sport. For the first time, the National Sports Council, there's 6 video cameras at the Sports Council.
No, you can rent it.
And I'm suggesting those cameras are at the National Sports Council. They're there for national federations and coaches to be able to utilize, because if we're talking 2024, video analysis in terms of practice, in terms of playing, is critical to the development. I made a suggestion to the Netball Association. They have decided to do it, and they're seeing a difference in terms of how they treat to analyzing the game's practice. If I'm laying up basketball with my left hand and I'm doing it wrong, you tell me as a coach, I'm doing it right, coach. But if you bring a camera and you take me into a room and we do some video analysis, and it is seen that I am doing this, it is impactful. Those of us who watch the Olympic would have seen coaches showing mistakes real time for field events. That is where we need to move. So we're doing, as a government, we're doing a lot in terms of how we treat to this. Those same video cameras, there's a portal at the National Sports Council that if you're coaching basketball in the US and you can't get down here to see Dwayne slam dunking, we can send, we can send that video to the coach to say, look, take a look at Dwayne and his skill sets to see if this is somebody that you can use in your program in terms of basketball scholarship. Yeah?
Actually, just to interject, sports is not really my area, but I sat and I listened to the conversations, and what I want to tap back on is the fact of resources, and then making sure that we kind of focus on all these sports. But my question to the minister is what do we consider a sport, right? Because I remember in school, I was very much involved in athletics. I was actually a runner, to believe it.
I can attest to that.
Yes, right? And I just took a different page because there was no opportunities there for me to flourish. And then I ended up being involved in ballroom and Latin dancing. And I remember for years, even before you became minister, working with Stephen Lashley, John King, former ministers, they did not consider Latin and ballroom dancing as a sport. But when you travel overseas to all the competitions, I've been to Blackpool, I've been to Paris, I've competed on a national level, receiving awards and stuff, you see how serious persons out there take the sport. And then we have persons here that don't have access to those type of resources, but then have to leave the island to actually go and pursue a career in ballroom and Latin. So that's my question. What do we then consider as a sport? Because ballroom and Latin dancing is not considered.
Well, it is a question that is outside of my scope. I think the IOC would probably be the one, because I was watching the Olympics and I saw, what do they call it? There was a
synchronized
sail.
swimming?
There was a sail and people were on the water using something like a parachute. Yeah, and I felt that I should take a break then because I thought it was just a cutaway, but it was actually something at the Olympics. One of the things too that we need to do on the island is to educate our parents about the possibilities that are opening as far as sports are concerned. My coaches at the National Sports Council will tell you that come January up to exam time, almost everybody who was involved in sports in the school setting no longer participate because the focus is 11 plus. So we need to have our parents, be aware that it is something that can help with the studies, not detract. And if we can get that happening, then again, I think it will benefit us. Yeah.
Piggybacking on what
Yeah.
you just said about timing and when sports fall during the school time, I think that better planning needs to go into competition time so that we can make sure that students, I don't believe in children who are in primary school specializing in a specific sport. I believe that they should be able to participate in as many as they like until they gravitate towards the one that fits them most. And one of the challenges in primary school is that most of our competitions fall at the same time. And then in the third term, yes, we know it's common entrance time, but then we are jam-packed with even more sports as well. So then you find that the athletes that you would love to have in the competition are being held back by, again, parents and teachers who are not on board with sports, because let's be real, many teachers do not see sport as an avenue for a career or moving forward in life. So those type of teachers hold back the students, some parents hold back the students, and then we're left with competitions that your best athletes are not in because Sports Council planned it during common entrance time. So planning of competition and having more competitions or more developmental, it's not a developmental program, I'm trying to remember the word. The Barbados Football Association did a clinic, right? Having, instead of just competition, having clinics so that the students could be exposed to the sports with certified coaches, etc. That can work in the place of competitions all of the time, because I don't believe that all of the children are ready for competition as well in at the primary level. Some of them, yes, but if you're looking at the majority, the inclusivity of all, it's hard to form a team when you have maybe 3 high flyers and the rest are just students who show the interest.
But
Okay, we're going to...
just on one point there, and I build it into culture as well,
Yeah.
right? Sport, the definition of sport is anything, it may surprise you. The definition of sport is anything that exerts physical or mental exertion. Understand? So that,
I knew.
but Dwayne does a lot of things. So anything that exerts physical or mental, but correct me if I'm wrong, on your point there, cricket is in the first term, track in the second term, and football and netball after 11 plus in the third term. And basketball is in the first term as well. But before Dwayne jumps in, and I link in this to culture. We have a culture, a mindset of what the job, as parents in some instances, have a mindset of what the pathway should look like and what you should be going to a particular job. Or this is a job, or this is a particular space that you have to get into. And this is where now sports and the culture and arts comes in. Because the athletes out there are breaking the definition of what traditional jobs look like. Young people of today are breaking the cycle of what in yesteryear the traditional jobs look like. I know of students today that sat next to me in class that wanted to study sports science, and their parents told them, no, you cannot study, go and do accounts. They're struggling today. Mentally, they're in jobs that they don't like, but they can't be bold enough. So this goes back to culture now, and I'm glad there's a good segue into culture. How now do we develop a culture or a mindset to show people that sports, the arts, culture, heritage, entrepreneurship, tech, robotics is where the world is going towards? Look at Joe Archer. Joe Archer's a millionaire.
Yep.
Chris Jordan's a millionaire. And we have born and bred local talent who are coming through the pipeline and have broken the glass of what a traditional job looks like, what a successful person looks like, and they're doing well. If you look at our artists, we have many talent. Crop over just finished. And I'm sure y'all know better than me, but a lot of the artists y'all manage don't spend much time in Barbados. Where are they? Playing the trade overseas, and then they come back home making heaps of money, probably more than all of us put together in here. So we got, how now as a culture do we develop that mindset? And it goes back to education. That's why education reform is critical in this time. Yep. That is then where we can breed the culture that we want to see for Barbados to transform. So Dwayne's specialty, because Dwayne is a basketball player, Dwayne is a track star. What else he is?
Distance runner.
He's a long distance runner. And he's a sportsman, because he's exert physical and mental, a lot of mental exertion.
But if I can pick up from to here, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation, what we want to touch on as it pertains to culture is what are your thoughts about the 50th anniversary of culture? We've been hearing the discussion. We know Mr. Grisette had a few words to say, but we want to know what could have been better, and in your opinion, what was missing? Open to the panel.
The ball is in that area.
Okay, I saw Dwayne sit back. I will start. For me, I don't think that it really matched my expectations of what 50th anniversary of Crop Over would have been, right? I saw it as a big spectacle of a celebration. And having an expectation, I struggled every day, right? Leading up to Crop Over, understanding what we have done, because I figured as though we didn't do anything. And this stems from a series of things happening. We've only recognized it only this year because we celebrated 50 years of Crop Over. But there was a lot of stuff that was going on for the last couple of years since my involvement in the actual cultural industry and the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And one of those things that I want to talk about is the accessibility of resources and funding for these said artists and entertainers. I watched many entertainers go out of Barbados to actually make a career. And after they have been on the spotlight overseas is when we start to recognize them, and then when we start to pour money into them, right? So I think that we have to beat our drums home first. I remember the old people talk about fixing our backyards before we're going to fix someone else's. Yeah. And that is the reality of the situation, because we look too much at what others out there are doing, and we try to match it up, or we try to set an expectation based on what Trinidad is doing. So we say that, okay, well, Trinidad is doing this, so then therefore we need to do this as well, instead of actually looking, assessing, and understanding the talent that we have here in Barbados, because the said Trinidadian artists have Barbadian persons in their bands, in their marketing, in their management, in every single thing. So if we sit back and just understand the talent that we have, then we will create the same opportunities for these said artists and entertainers that others out there are having as well.
Okay, Mr. Grisette.
For the last couple of weeks, the last week, I've been asked about the Crop Over Festival this year. And I tired saying that it was not what I expected and not what others expected. And only up to last night, I was having a conversation with Chapman Stewart, and he brought to my attention that the Kadooment Day, that 80% of the revelers on the road were foreign persons who participate in the jump up and stuff like that. Then there was a decline in bands. There was at first it was supposed to be 19, then they ended up to be 16. And then each band, some people had in about 100 people, some had in 80. And that was not what I saw in previous years. And it really hurt me to see how our culture industry is going down. Something that I'm 44 years, and I was in this thing from the time I was 12, 13 years old, because this is something that I had a passion for, I wanted to do. I was at the tents, I could remember, and then I got involved in Untouchables tent. I was stage manager at 14, 15 years old. I can remember when Untouchables tent had persons at the Dover Convention Center there from about 4 o'clock in the evening. The lines was all down St. Lawrence Gap for people to get in to see the tent. Now the tents can scrape 100, 200 people. So there's something that is wrong, and it starts again from school from 4 years old. We should be educating these children about our culture. And culture is not only about the jump up, the music, whatever. Culture is how we speak, the clothes we wear, our attitude. That is culture. That is our, and the children should be educated from tender age. Because in Trinidad, every single company in Trinidad, when they have carnival, everybody's involved because it was embedded to them from childhood, because they had the circus, they've got the circus school tours, the artist is going to the schools, you know, they do things. And that is some of the things that we're missing. And, you know, persons that say, oh, why are you talking? And I wrote papers and submitted about these things when I was managing Jabe. I took up my own personal resources. I went to companies and I begged and whatever. And we did a year, we did the circus school tour in the secondary schools and stuff like that. And it propelled into some of the students coming and asking how they can get involved. And it's showing that there's also a career out of it and the entertainment industry is a billion-dollar industry. And we're not tapping into it the right way, right? And then, you know, all the government seems to want to do is to give handouts. It's to give handouts. It's to give handouts and not a hand up, and not providing the opportunities for persons to make money after. They want to say, oh, we're going to record a song for you, right? But they mean training these, or they mean putting things at their disposal to help them to propel in the industry, like how to do the press kits and how to do this, and you know, they need image consultant, these kind of things. Because then you see some of the artists on the stage, the pants drop down, they're wearing the right clothes when they're going on stage, and even for camera, right? They got on clothes that when the camera pick up, the canvas see them properly. You know, all these different things is things that we need to do within the industry that could create professionals. And Rihanna is a typical example. When you would have seen Rihanna before she became a star, right? People would say, even she's skin. You know, the girl, beautiful. You know, they said she couldn't sing at first. She get vocal training, right? Then she has a management team that tells her what to do, when to do it, how to do it, right? Because they invested in her. They saw this girl from Barbados, and they created the story and the narrative around Barbados, right? And instead of the government, and you know, I say this all the time to people, instead of the government paying Rihanna with all this money to think, why not pay her or give her an incentive to include some Bajan musicians in her band, to put dancers in her band, in her presentation, right? The only person outside of Barbados that does this is Masha Montana. He should be given an award, right? Because he has, majority of his band are Barbadians. His engineers are Barbadian. Nandi, one of the dancers, is Barbadian. We have Bungie Garland. Lawrence's engineer is a Barbadian. And, you know, because I was responsible also for getting Lawrence in there with Bungie, right? And we are not saying, like, you know, we should be using the opportunity with Rihanna to be able to insert some of our talent, because then some of the other young people can say, you know what, I want to be a good musician, like, thing. Then we having then we go on the next end, we having these youngsters going to BCC, doing the music program, but when they're done, we are creating the opportunities for them to play in the bands. wanting we used to have a good nightlife, and where we used to have bands playing in clubs and these different kind of things. If we scrape together 3 bands in Barbados, we scrape together a lot. Right? So, and we should have been, for the 50th anniversary of Crop Over, we should have been going back from when Crop Over first started, right, to where we are today. Because a lot of young people, right, do not even know anything about hard and burning. They don't know nothing, right? They don't know about the good music that we had before. You know, they didn't know when Bridgetown Market was not actually on Spring Garden Highway, right? So, and we did not educate them, right? Like, you know, I was commenting on the opening gala, right? We had an opening gala. It didn't have a story, right? It was just a whole, and I'm tired of seeing the National Culture Foundation doing these shows. The shows would be about 20 hours long, right? And just a whole heap of people that they just jump on the stage without any planning, without any thought process put into it, right? I've been doing shows, and when I'm putting together a show, I drive around, listen to the music, I think about how this show is going to start, the middle, and the ending, right? You know, I just don't just so I can do a show and I can put on 3 calypsonians, 2 rap artists, and then it doesn't have any substance to it, because you're just saying, I paying these artists, you know, they're coming and they're singing, and that's it, right? The show should have had a storyline from the beginning, from the first set of calypso songs that we had, right, down to now, right? And show how the music has transcended from then until now, right? These are the things that we should have been doing. We should be getting more corporate Barbados involved, you know, even if it is, you know, the companies that got 1,000 employees, that got a little calypso competition or something in the...
I hear you speaking about government and companies, but I have not heard you once give parents a responsibility in carrying culture or teaching culture to children, because it's not just on the teachers.
I know, but that's why I said that it comes from within, from the time the child is 4 years old, because obviously then the parents are going to have an active, well, 4-year-old child can't come to a program by yourself, right? And then when a parent sees the child involved in something that is making them happy, they're going to also be involved in it. They're also going to be participating in it. So then, and that is one of the reasons why I said when we did the Circle School Tour, right? When we went into the schools, and we released the music, and the children, when they're going home, they tell the mommy, I want to hear that song, you know? And even with that's how the Marby Man get popular. Because the little children was singing the Marby song, and then it transcended to the adults.
Yeah.
Right? And the saying a child should lead them is always because the children does pattern something in the parents' minds. Get the parents involved. Right? And that is where, you know, we're missing it. We got to, and that is that is earlier I wanted to ask the question to the minister in terms of sports. Why cannot we not, with the educational reform, why can we not have sports and stuff like that as a part of the syllabus, where when you're doing the exams, them is things that you're being examined about, not only to add 1 and 1 is 2 and 3 and 4 and air, back, cat, because everybody is not going to be academic inclined, right? Other persons, and you know, even with English, writing songs, right? All these things tie back in. So we should be able to have these things within the syllabus in school. And then it makes it more exciting. And then the children want to learn. Right? Because then, you know, you got the children at school, they can't wait till 3 o'clock.
I think school is too much of, as you said, maths and English.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I might say something, I think the crop over, it depends on the lens that you're using in terms of how you view crop over. The reality is that if you were involved in crop over as an artist and your product was strong, you made money this year. There was one a gentleman from the private sector that is very, very candid in his mouthings in terms of these type of things. And he said crop over this year was on steroids, his words. So my take on it is that it was a success. The National Cultural Foundation, they sent persons within the school setting to help the youngsters to develop design and to do these things. We had a company, and I dare say that the involvement from that company with a member of staff helped push him to win a crown this year. So it depends on the lens, like I said, that you're looking at in terms of this. Obviously, persons will be critical, but my take on it, it was a major success. I think Soca Point 5 was massive. The fact that you had a cancellation and you had the threats of rain, and then you have so many people coming back again. The fact that it went live on YouTube, meaning that you were outside of the scope of Barbados, I think, for the first time. So it depends on the lens you're looking at in terms of how you view success for crop over this year. And I think government did a fantastic job in terms of staging the festival. So it depends on the lens.
Yeah, I know a lot of Barbadians were of the view that events such as Party Monarch, Sweet Soca Monarch, some old Kaiso, for example, in Daphne Hackett, there were a lot of suggestions that came from members of the public, and the general consensus is that the members of the public feel a bit disheartened when they think about 50 and the celebration of a golden anniversary. Open to the panel and members of the public if you have questions as well.
I hear the minister saying, and all of his colleagues in his cabinet for the last couple of days saying crop over was a success. And as he said, he's saying it from different lenses. So they're saying it from their lens as a government to make their government look good. I don't know if the lens if he had on shades, right? But from being involved in the industry and the vibe, carnival and an event is about a vibe. It's about a vibe. So you haven't got everyone having a vibe. It is because you're saying Soca 5.0. We got to look at how many free tickets was given away, because I know that they had a promotion running on the radio where you go and buy $150 from a number of stores in Bridgetown and you get a free ticket, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then I know that some of your MPs and candidates and representatives get tickets to give you in the constituency. So, you know, we have to look at it, you know, because they had an event, Soca 5.0, the last thing for crop over, whatever, right? But then the whole structure of the show, too, and you had the popular songs, right? And I'm not pouring cold water. I'm not saying that it wasn't a success, but it could have been better, right? Like you said, we could have had back the Party Monarch. And there was nothing against bringing back the Party Monarch, right? But I know the reason why they didn't have the Party Monarch. That is a discussion for another time. And I don't want to cause no controversy here.
Sorry, Dwayne, I mentioned Soca 5, but the truth is that they had so many other facts. I have 3 grown adult children, and I mean, one of the things they said to me was, Dad, we can't keep up with the partying. My son called and said, "Oh, I'm going to a fete starting soon." I was like, "But it's minutes to 8. What fete you going starting at 8 o'clock in the morning?"
Minister, those are the private facts.
And the private fest is a safe crop over.
Fine, but
I was at them as well.
But here's the thing: to use the young people language, all of the private fetes were bursts.
Yeah, those save crop over for sure, right? But I wanted to make a comment earlier, because when we're talking about results, and Minister, you're saying that it was a successful crop over. My thing is, what did we measure that on, right? Because I will have to see the statistics. I will have to see the results. Because my thing is, having one or two persons making a comment to say that it was successful, that's not saying that a crop over festival was successful. That's just the opinion of two individuals. But if we really sit down and ask a wide cross-section of individuals that form all different parts of the industry that makes up what crop over is all about, then we will get the true value of the responses and what people talk about the crop over festival. Sorry, wait, Dwayne. And it kind of balls my skin for a bit, right? Because I find too that, especially this year, it have been happening for quite some time, but this year especially, having been even more involved, because persons saw talent and they utilized my services, is that a lot of persons that we have in these positions are a part of the actual, let me say, the production aspect of it.
Yeah.
Don't know what the hell they're doing at all, right? Mm-hmm. And even down to technical cues, right? You have persons there put in place, but they don't have a clue, right? And you ask yourself, what on God's earth is going on?
If I may interject, we're a little bit over time, so we're going to ask everyone to give their final comments, and then we're going to move into the entertainment section.
Well, I will start to just say that if we're going to speak about the success of crop over, I just need to see the results.
I find it interesting that you're speaking about the results, and you said that persons recognize your talent, which means that you got work during crop over, but still for you it was not successful.
I got work, but having work does not mean that I had a successful crop over. That's the problem there. The difference to me is not about the dollars, right? And like I said, and cents. It's about the development of these young people. And that's why I think a lot of young people then gravitate towards me, because I focus on taking an individual from here, point A to point B. And that is what is successful for me, not the dollars and cents. Because at the end of the day, the dollars and cents have to spend back in this same economy. So in a blink of an eye, it goes, Minister. And then you have persons telling you what they're paying you and not what you can actually charge, right? And they do a lot with the artists, and I find that very stifling as an artist. I get phone calls to book my artists, and they're saying, yeah, but this is what we are paying you. But is it what our artists actually deserve?
Rico, I want to touch on that, because I see Miss Stannis here from courts, and they can tell she got $100 and they want to buy a TV. So I gain she the $100 for the TV. That is what happens in this industry, and especially with the National Culture Foundation. And it has been happening for years. It ain't started happening yesterday. From the time I was managing Jabe, when they was doing the cavalcades, a whole band with about 9-10 people, and they said they only gave me $1,500 or $1,200, right? Then I used to go look for money and spend money on doing good presentations, pyrotechnics, these different kind of things, and there was, a fabulous show, right? But then when you're done, and I was very poor and broke when I was managing that bit. From the time I get out of that, I start to see a little change, right? Yeah. So, and it's serious, and that is why I want to know how the minister can determine it was a successful crop over festival.
But Dwayne, I'm glad that you brought up that point, because the minister said that I made money for crop over, but I am more sure.
Okay, so I have to interject.
I made money
here once again. We are over time.
Okay.
So please make your final statements so that we can let the other persons come on stage.
But Minister, I'm an accountant, and looking at my trial balance, I actually spend more on artists than I actually gained from crop over season.
Okay, we're going to move to Mr. Balbulia and Miss Wickham, sorry.
My final statement.
Yes, final
for
statements.
The discussion, panel discussion, would be to, as he said, implement more of culture and more of sport into the dynamic of the schools. Again, it's not just about the math or English. We know what having the children involved in dance and drumming and sports and different things can do to create a mold of a better citizen. And I find that we're falling away from that in the schools, and as a result, look at the current climate of the island. If we look back at the schools and look back at putting these programs back in place, getting more of the parents involved in the process as well, because it's only so much that can be done at school. We need parents and the communities involved in the raising and the development of the children. The parents cannot take a back seat. I believe that things will start to go in a more upward, a better direction for the island as a whole. And again, with the athletes and, as they said, with culture, let's chart paths for success for anyone who's looking to make careers out of these two areas on the island, so that we can be realistic with what we do as a job. I feel like as a PE teacher, my job ends at 3 o'clock. My students go home and then is whatever else the world has to give them. My athletes don't have an idea that maybe I could be the next Usain Bolt, or maybe it could be the next whoever professional athlete they want to be. They don't see that. It's not a realistic idea for them. Same thing with dance, same thing with culture. So let's just do a better job as a whole, as a community, as a culture, as a island, to focus more on these two areas and realize that there are career paths available in it, there are professions available in it. Let's chart for the children to be successful as well.
Final comments?
Wait, what am I say? This spicier than brass stars. No, first of all, just as I started, let me thank Caleb and his team for an excellent week of activities. My second event on Saturday, they had the Leadership Academy, and that was a definite success. So hats off to you and your team for putting together this week of activities. So I think you all need to give the BYDC a massive round of applause. And in my closing, what's gone is gone. And we as Bajans, we know how to pick out the problems. We are problem pickers very well. We could talk on the problems the whole day. And when I hear Dwayne speak, Dwayne is speaking from a place that he cares, because he knows the product can be better. When people speak, they can see a better product, a transformative product. And oftentimes in Barbados, we misunderstand a lot of things. Well, obviously, within context, you take what persons are saying and stuff like that. But I think where we have to now think is how we could put our heads together, because all of us know the issues in Barbados. All of us know the cultural issues. How can we put our heads together for a solution, for a transformed Barbados? And then where we come together and form those solutions, how can we now understand the system that we operate in for them to then be implemented? Because if we don't understand the system that we operating in, and we shooting up here, and the system is down here, we ain't gonna get no way. So we can always feel like we're the victim. So we gotta work with people where they're at. And that's at each and every level within our society. From the political parties, to the social partnership, to the religious institutions, to the youth, deal with people where they're at. To the government as well, deal with people where they're at. And for me, I think how we can come together more and work towards a transformed Barbados, where we put in solutions to the problems that we face, or ideas for the problems that we face, which could be a possible solution, then that's where we could start making a lot of progress. I think we often operate too much in our little silos, because as we see from this conversation, sports and culture face similar issues.
Yeah.
So how now can we blend the two? Then we deal with education, then we deal with culture, then we deal with health. So how can we come together and form a a society that working towards a solution-oriented, transformed society, rather than picking problems, and then when the economy pan starts talking about problems the whole day. You understand? Let me move forward, knowing where Barbados can be, and then to the institutions as well, they have a responsibility, in my closing as well, to listen to the people. And I think a lot of people listen to people within government, but then obviously not everybody have their own style. But you have to listen to people and understand where people are coming from. So for me, we gonna come together, think more solution-oriented, think more transformation, and that's where then we can see Barbados progressing.
I agree, and I want to thank all members of the panel for having this very informative discussion on youth sports and culture. So thank you so much for joining us. And speaking about culture, we're going to we have an entertainer that's going to be joining us as soon as the panelists leave the stage. We have Tay, a former junior monarch, who's going to be performing popular classic by Edwin Yearwood, A Voice in My Head.
Why must I go on to live in this violence and crime? Why can't I tour the lands I know? Watch all my children grow. Why must I go on to live in this violence? I'm down with it, I dig it on there, I'm down with it, I dig it on there, I'm down with it, I dig it, na 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 na, doom there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I dig it on there, I'm down with it, I dig it. Oh gosh, a new day begins and you're feeling down and out. With problems ahead, don't know yet what they're about. You wish you could die so the madness could be gone. It's nonsense to hide and run. Something says keep pressing on. A voice in my head keeps talking to me. Whoa, whoa. A voice in my head keeps talking to me. Oh, to me problems. It tells me the road is long. It tells me we must be strong. Roll with the pain and strife. Today is the start of the rest of your life. A voice in my head keeps talking to me. Whoa, whoa. A voice in my head keeps talking to me. Oh, to me problems. Doom there. Dig it, dig it, dig it, dig it, dig it, dig it, doom there. Dig it, dig it, na 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 na, yeah. Whoa, dig it, there, dum dum. Inside of our homes, poverty is still lodging pain. You pack up and leave, but you find them everywhere. Oh man, lottery gives you hope of reaching dreams. But that is a small logical casting over too extreme. A voice in my head keeps talking to me. Whoa, whoa. A voice in my head keeps talking to me. Oh, to me problems. It tells me the road is long. It tells me we must be strong. Roll with the pain and strife. Today is the start of the rest of your life, yeah. Voice in my head. Voice in my head. A voice in my head keeps talking to me. Oh, so I lift my head up to the sky, question the heavens, asking why. Why must I go on to live in this violence and crime? Why can't I tour the lands I know? watch all my children grow. Why must I go on to live in this violence and crime? Diggy, 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 doom there. Oh, oh gosh, a voice in my head, a voice in my head, voice in my head. Oh, he talked through most of my life, though I've never seen his face. But I trust him strong, he can never be replaced. Though employment low and the crime rate's prison high, he tells me hold on to me dreams, to climb high, reach for the sky. A voice in my head, keep talking to me. A voice in my head, keep talking to me. Hold to me problems, it tells me the road is long. It tells me we must be strong. Roll with the pain and strife. Today is the start of the rest of your life, yeah. Voice in my head, keep talking to me. A voice in my head. Oh, so I lift my head up to the sky, question the heavens, asking why. Why must I go on to live in this violence and crime? Why can't I tour the lands I know, watch all my children grow? Why must I go on to live in this violence and crime? Diggy, 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 doom there. Oh, keep talking to me, keep talking to me. Thank you very much.
All right, could I have another round of applause for Kay? Good night, everyone. My name is Nathaniel Lane. I am the coordinator of the BYDC 55th anniversary celebrations, and I wanted to thank you guys for coming out tonight. It's my pleasure as well to introduce Mr. Akeem Chandler Prescott, who will be introducing the panel on science and technological advancement. Let's give a round of applause for Akeem. Cheers.
All right. Good night, everyone. How y'all feeling? I imagine I've been sitting for a while. So, my name is Akeem Chandler Prescott, as he said, and I'm your moderator for tonight as we discuss innovation and technological advancement. So the panelists for this discussion are Miss Felicia Dujon. Ms. Felicia Dujon is a lecturer in philosophy and has served as a human rights expert in various capacities within the civil and governmental organizations. Dujon has received numerous awards for her work in community development and activism, which includes the Ambassador for Peace and nominee for the 2018 edition of the UNESCO Madanjit Singh Prize for the promotion of tolerance and nonviolence. Her weekly articles and commentaries appear regularly in regional and local newspapers throughout the Caribbean. Ms. Felicia Dujon, you can join us. And our next panelist is Mr. Giovanni Gittins. Mr. Giovanni Gittins is a dedicated advocate for advancing the Caribbean through STEM and robotics education. He is the winner of the Colin Hudson Award, a national award for exceptional work in STEM development. He's also the founder and current president of the College Robotics Club and a platinum awardee in the 2022 Caribbean STEM Olympiad. Giovanni wishes to develop STEM and robotics programs and make education more accessible to the youth. He plans to become a mechatronics engineer and an educator. Thus, he has completed numerous university-level courses and programs to develop his skills. His knowledge saw him speaking at various public and private events, most notably the 2023 Caribbean Association of Principals of Secondary Schools Conference. Mr. Giovanni Gittins, you can join us on the stage. Our final panelist is Mr. Steve Fonafat. Mr. Steve Fonafat is the CEO of PhoneTech, a leading technology company known for its innovative solutions. With a strong background in technology and business, Steve has driven PhoneTech to the forefront of the tech industry. His leadership has been instrumental in developing groundbreaking technologies that have transformed business operations. Steve is recognized for his strategic vision, commitment to excellence, and dedication to innovation, making him a prominent figure in the tech world. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Steve Faunafat. Lastly, we will have a BYDC representative join us, Mr. Keyshawn Waldron. All right, so I'm excited for this. I'm a cultural practitioner, so the last panel would have been good for me. I had a lot of things I wanted to say to the minister, but we'll quell those for now. So my first question to the panel is, how can we overcome the barriers preventing Barbadian youth from fully participating in the digital economy? I'm going to give this to Mr. Giovanni first.
Okay, first I would like to say congratulations to BYDC for 55 years of work. Everyone, please, I think they deserve a round of applause. So when we're talking about removing barriers to the students in terms of, it was the digital economy.
Yes, please.
Right. Well, first we have to look at the mindset students even have regarding that. How many of the students do you, wait, sorry, I got a phone call. We use these things here just as distractions. Right. A lot of the times you have the youth, they see technology almost as just toys. Like you would have somebody they're in a world where we have these devices in our pockets. These devices here, current phones are more powerful than the first rocket ship to land on the moon. And the only time that a child is interested in it is when it got a video game on it. So we have to think first of changing the mindset of the youth so that they can then even consider things like the digital economy. Right now, they're not looking at anything like that. Right now, they're looking at how many phones can I get? Can I get the newest iPhone? Can I get a gaming laptop so I could beat my friend in video games? No, that is an insane thought to have, that in a world where we could have the most advanced technology like, what's it called? ChatGPT.
Yes.
We hear about that all the time. Yet, the only time I hear about that in Barbados is when students cheating on homework. We have to start with the mindset. So if we could focus on developing a mindset of seeing technology not necessarily as just fun and games, but as tools to develop society, to develop oneself, then we can look at removing barriers. The first barrier is our mindset.
So before we give it to the other panel, I know that has me thinking about people born in the 50s, 60s, 70s. When they're raising children, they tell them, become a doctor, become a lawyer, go into medicine, traditional careers. So this cultural attitude that technology, culture, sports is not a legitimate career. So how would we even convince those people? Can we even convince those people that technology is a worthwhile career and have it trickle down then to the children they're raising?
Well, I think that the world does all the convincing. Right now, I'm using a microphone, which is technology. I'm sitting on a chair made of technology. I'm looking blinded by light, sorry, which obviously technology is the building block of society. We had technology in sticks and stones to create buildings, and now we have transformed that into robots and AI. Technology is what makes developed countries, or the developed countries, developed. Because otherwise, we would just be a bunch of people running around playing games, and like the technology that we have and the sophistication of that technology is what allows us to develop and advance as a society. There shouldn't be a need to convince people of that. It's all around us. But what I would say, again, going back to the mindset, remove the idea of technology, or at least digital technology, being just fun and games. Let's think of it as a tool to develop society, and then you can look at culture. The culture are the culture of wanting to develop society, and that should be enough. Because now there's going to be that relationship between technology and fusing technology with developing society. You can then tell students, well, if you want to develop sports, how about you try investing in sports medicine? Look at the technology that they use. You want to be a trainer? Well, the same, what was it? It was video or image processing, something of that nature. Just get people to understand that in every aspect of society, in every aspect of our economy and our industries, there is some technology that can help. And that going into any aspect of the world, once you take technology with you, once you use that technology, you can develop it and you can develop it yourself. I think we have to start understanding that technology is everywhere.
Mr. John?
Well, a pleasant good evening, everyone. When our host said the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I almost felt a little old. I thought I felt a little ancient, and it brought me back to the time when I first went into my computer engineering class as a student, where we had to learn COBOL. And I'm not sure if many persons remember COBOL, one of the programming languages, and how much work that you had to literally do to, just to do a programming language in itself, just to do a program. And to see the transition from starting 20 years ago to what we have now. And I was very, very much impressed in terms of their theme for your anniversary, creating bonds and strengthening communities. And how do we create those bonds are very important. And how do we use technology as well as innovation to do that? So it's very important. My fellow panelists speak of in terms of how we create those various bonds within society, but also what is very important, how do we think about technology in and of itself? Because technology is really using scientific techniques to enhance society. And after we've seen the diverse in terms of, we have to look at the different phases or different areas in technology. It could be medical technology, it could be mechanical technology, and what we really tend to speak about is ICT, which is what we talk about, information technology and communication technologies. And so it's very important that when we look in terms of even young persons using devices, many persons may not know, but I am a gamer. I grew up as a gamer. I loved a lot of video games, and this is what drew my interest in programming. And so we tend as a society to not encourage young persons in those various fields, not recognizing that the significance of those fields and what it can transform into other areas as well. Because you can do both front end, which is user-face interface, or you can use the back end doing in terms of the programming language. But I think what is also very critical is how do we use the technology that will advance and that will promote and as well as develop the skills that we need for our society. Because now that we're talking about ChatGPT, and of course most of you here are my students, my past students, and it was amazing that when ChatGPT came out, everybody was a little bit alarmed that students may use it. But of course, with the innovation of artificial intelligence, these are the kinds of conversation I believe that we ought to have. How can we utilize technology, those various technologies, to advance our youth, to advance our societies, and do not place artificial intelligence, because it's very much like when I was growing up, I don't know how much persons remember when we heard of the Y2K bug. Everybody thought the world would have ended, and it's very similar to what we're going through right now with artificial intelligence. People are saying perhaps it may take over the world and things of that nature. I think we have to change the narrative of how we look at technology, but also the inclusion of more gender equality in those fields. I think we've spoken quite a lot about that in terms of how many women as opposed to men within those various fields, and as you can see, look at your panelists. It almost, again, brings back the conversation in terms of how many women enter those fields in terms of computer engineering, in terms of artificial intelligence, and what can we do as a society? Because if we are to create those bonds and bridge those gaps within society, it is important that we look at all facets of society, whether it's gender neutrality or gender equality and equity, and also in terms of how do we look at the various social structures within our society. So technology covers every basis of society. If we really look at it, during COVID was a very good example where technology actually came in. where you did not have to, well, I'm religious, but you did not have to go to church. You could have actually stayed home and have a service. And so these are the ways that we look at in terms of how do we strengthen our societies by using those tools to advance and to transform our societies. So I think it's a matter of us as a society to look at, yes, technology has its advantages and disadvantages, but how best can we utilize it to take us where we need to go?
Yeah, lovely. Steve, you have anything to add?
Well, of course. You can start by repeating the question.
Sure.
I want to be context specific.
So the question is, how can we overcome the barriers preventing Barbadian youth from fully participating in the digital economy?
All right, so this specific question is very near and dear to my heart. I wasn't requested a bio, so I didn't get to send one. I was a bit of an outcast as a youngster because interest in computers wasn't very popular. When I was in primary school, spent a lot of time inside of the staff room on the computer. Secondary school, wasn't good at art, wasn't good at sports, IT lab, right? Developing websites, apps, and video games when I was 13. And I have developed apps and video games and websites for companies in Barbados. We've done it commercially, but they've never had recognition. I personally am not, I guess if I was in America, I'd be Republican. I believe in less government involvement and more of people and businesses taking responsibility for what they want. It's not hard for a student to pick up their cell phone, download an app, and learn to program Python. Python is one of the most in-demand programming skill sets in the world. NSA, Facebook, the crypto world. You can learn that in a couple of hours from your cell phone. You don't need funding, you don't need resources. Go to a community center, get some free internet, use a phone, learn to program, apply for a job on Freelancer, Fiverr, etc. But I think the barriers come in play in terms of, like I said, more recognition than resources, right? I remember there were competitions, entered, won, and then recently, or a couple of years ago, I saw something on television talking about a new program to do video game education in Barbados. I've been doing workshops with the NCF and the government of Barbados, probably half my life in video game development, right? So I think recognizing the talent that we have here. I'm not the only one. There are writers here, there are other developers. There was an attempt for the NCF to start an association, but I think that went wrong. But there's a lot of talent here that develop video games, develop apps, develop websites, that are out there in the freelance markets, that develop processes. The invention of the search engine, that was a Bayesian invention, right? And there's a lot of tech out there, and you guys are losing it because there's no established infrastructure here along the lines of like a Silicon Valley. Just a space where persons with the ideas and technology can flourish. Maybe a center with some computers you could use or whatever for persons that don't have access to that stuff. But like I said, and not to knock my guy here, and to agree, I'm a gamer as well. I got over 7,000 hours on Steam. Mom always used to tell me playing video games, wasting time. And I wanted to ask a question to the previous panel, esports, right? Big industry, yeah, Electronic Sports League, League of Legends, their last two tournaments had more viewership than the Super Bowl, more sponsorship than the Super Bowl, right? And we have a lot of guys here in Barbados that I know as well, because I was an esports advocate for a while, that play professionally in teams. These are international teams that have entered tournaments and won, but no one know about them. Again, we don't want your money, we don't need your resources, just a little recognition. Have it established, the same way how other athletes are greeted when they return, or a little news coverage. That helps encourage persons to know. And just like it was with cricket growing up, no one told me I could be a millionaire playing cricket. Same way no one told me I could be a millionaire playing video games. I could be a millionaire making video games. And there's a large emphasis on education, which is unnecessary. Like I said, you can learn from your phone. Once you can read, you can get into technology. It's the easiest industry to enter and make money. 14-year-old boy, Vietnam, Flappy Bird, made millions of dollars. The government had to shut him down so they could put taxes in place to make money off of him. And he had no formal education in the field. I'll pause there and pick up your other questions.
Okay. Kishan, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add on, in terms of the mention of esports, that's also something that I wanted to answer the previous panel, because I believe it was Tahir Babulia who would have brought up the point that sport is something that is, you could classify as sport as long as it's something that requires mental or physical exertion.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of discussions about the physical sports, but then when he brought up that definition, I began to think about the esports. And esports is definitely one of the avenues that I really think that we should be looking into, because on one hand, it is definitely it has a lot of ability to generate revenue from the tourism perspective. As my fellow colleague would have just mentioned, there are millions of people who are tuning into the streamed events such as League of Legends. He mentioned that the viewership was even more, it was much higher than the Super Bowl. And yeah, I could definitely agree with that, because all of my friends who are involved in technology have like some level of liking for esports. So not only could investing in esports benefit us from from the side of economic improvement, but also from the side of community-driven activities. Right now, there is the Prime Minister's Cup. So I was wondering, like, in the future, what if there was like some type of tournament just to get like a gauge as to how many persons are interested in esports? Because I could tell you, even like when I go to AnimeCon, I always tend to tune into the Smash Brothers tournament. It's a very big event that goes on there. But not only that, there are also like all of those small other esport events that are going on throughout the year. So if it is possible that the government or even a private entity could partner with the government to have such a tournament, I believe it could be very beneficial for the youth. But to answer the question that you were talking about earlier, about the first question, the only question, where you were trying to help youth overcome barriers to get into the digital economy, one of the things that I would have realized currently as a computer science student, the youth are digitally literate, but primarily so with cell phones and not necessarily laptops. I believe that even at like a secondary school level, there are already some existing digital literacy classes, but I am seeing the need to have like a more in-depth digital literacy class, or more so call it like digital etiquette, because while persons understand how to use technology, I feel as though we need to now teach persons how to use it efficiently. They are able to use social media, browse on Google, go on Instagram and Facebook and so forth, or even use the ChatGPT, primarily for nefarious reasons, as was mentioned by someone else. But it is important that as these technologies come into place, we are able to teach the younger generation not only how to use it, but how to use it efficiently. Because I highly doubt that at any point in our future, we are going to be able to set up a system where a student isn't going to use ChatGPT. And it is an issue, but I don't really see it as a major issue, because everyone has access to it. As long as you have access to technology, you have access to ChatGPT. So I more so see it as a level playing field, as long as everyone has access to it. So yeah, that's one of the things that I believe we really need right now, is a digital literacy class that not only looks at how to use technology, but also how to use it efficiently to get what they want.
So I'm hearing quite a few things come out. We have a change in attitude, we have recognition, and I'm also hearing education coming out, two opposing opinions to some degree. So as when we think about educational reform, what does that look like when it's applied to a digital future? What does educational reform look like for Barbados to prepare students for the digital future?
I want to consider for the previous two fellow panelists mentioned ChatGPT, and it's something that I think the world is making a mistake on, and I think I'm allowed to speak on mistakes the world makes, because I'm a resident of planet Earth, so I can speak on the world. Not allowing students to utilize the technology leaves them behind, because I'm using ChatGPT, right? And it's given me a competitive advantage on all of my peers. So if you're teaching students to not utilize competitive advantages, is a backwards way of operating. They should be integrated into the curriculum. And I said it, but I hate to hear it, AI. Right? There are many AI models out there. ChatGPT is just one. there's Bard, there's Genesis, from numerous companies, all have different AI models. And it's not just about giving answers to subjects. It's generative AI for image generation, for the film industry, something as simple as taking your pictures in your Samsung phones, it corrects errors.
Yes.
AI needs to be something that is taught on a general scope, and the integration and utilization of AI is something that needs to be taught. It's like telling students not to use computers or not to use the internet. Don't go on the internet and look for answers. That's what you're telling them no in terms of using AI to assist them in work. So the same way how back then they'll say, well, don't use the encyclopedia. No, it's called research, right? So we have to learn how to integrate these tools. Technology is there to be used, and when we don't use them, we get left behind, and the person that do use them make a lot of money, and we all suffer the consequences. So in terms of education, I think integrating the AI and allowing the usage of it, the teachers, there are tools that allow you to see how much of an input the AI has had into the work. There are plagiarization tools to allow you to see if the articles are copied, if they're similar, right? By the end of the day, something as simple as knowing what prompts to use on the different artificial intelligence models to generate the results is a skill set. People pay for people to generate prompts. So you may want a picture of a dog driving a car, but you want it more specific, you want it to be photorealistic, you want it to, there are different prompts that you use. And the prompts go back now to the days of simple language models for programming, right? It comes back wrong where there's a skill set required to use these AI tools, and it's not just a blank, press a button and you get everything. So integration of it into education is going to help a lot. The teachers having access to tools to moderate and determine the usage as well as to teach it will make a big difference and give a competitive edge where the rest of the world is running away from it. We should be embracing it and using it as a tool to advance ourselves.
If I may interject here,
Sure.
I think one of the challenges that we have is that technology is way faster than policy development. So there you have AI being an artificial intelligence and all this technology being done, but we don't have the policy to regulate. And so I think that's the biggest problem. It's not that we don't want, or I should say, not that policymakers or teachers or administrators do not want students using those devices or using those platforms. It's that they don't have the policies to regulate. So you can't tell a student, if I have 15%, because what has happened now with, I think it's called Turnitin. What it's actually done now, it has recognized that AI, because at one point it wasn't tested for AI. So what it has actually done, it doesn't recognize anything above 20% because of false positives. That is, so it doesn't allow students if you do your work. So these are the things that I think is very critical. And I think these are some of the barriers that we need to look at. What are the policies that we have that help students or help young persons, guide young persons in terms of how to use technology ethically? And I think that is very important because when we think about technology, we understand it's a virtual space, but at the same time, what is the right way to use the technology? Because we can get persons that may use, you may use AI perhaps for grammar, but somebody may use AI to write the entire essay. And so these are the kinds of questions that we need to ask in terms of policy development. And yes, we're talking about educational reform and education reform. I think one of the things that we speak about is that we prepare our youth for the future. But I think it's also important to empower them for the present because we live in the present. And so it's important that we prepare them in such a way that young persons understand what the programming languages are, what is AI in and of itself. Because in philosophy, which is my field, that there's always a question about, you know, we have a field called philosophy of mind. Do computers have their own mind? And that is the question. So if you input certain information, is it actually yours or is it, you know, the computer, and how do somebody test or grade you based upon that? So I think in education reform, there's quite a lot that we have to look at in terms of not just curriculum basis, but how do young persons learn? Because how I learned when I was growing up, that was like 100 years ago, as opposed to your period now, because it's very difficult. Now you have smart technologies in rooms, and how do young persons learn and stay active within the space and learning? One of the most remarkable things that I'm seeing the Ministry of Education is doing now is that first formers will have access to ebooks. I don't know if it has been introduced, but I notice a lot of young persons. So that is a remarkable thing, because now young students will have the opportunity to use the devices to learn, and the teachers as well, and the academics will be able to guide students using those technologies. So it's very important that we look at in terms of the advancement of technology, but also the critical factor is the policies that will help guide government agencies or governments in terms of ensuring that people do not infringe on the rights, copyrights, solution, copyrights issues, censorship is very important, all of those kinds of problems, hacking, and all of these things, the unethical practices, I think we really have to look at that as well.
Got anything to add, Giovanni?
Yes, I would just like to say my fellow panelists made some very excellent points. And it all comes back, or in my mind, it all goes back to the mindset, whether it be the use of the phones. I would have mentioned that a lot of the times we see it as like a thing for video games. And it was rightfully pointed out that you have both the front end, you have the back end. You can make money with video games. You can do streaming for video games. You can do a lot in terms of the digital economy, in terms of personal development. However, we don't do that. And that's the issue. There's a lot of potential with technology. It's not inherently good or bad, but it's how you approach it. So if yes, you can say that we should be pushing technology, and that is true. As I said, the countries are built off of technology. But if we keep pushing technology at people, say, here, take the laptop, take the phone, here, I'm giving you internet, you have access to ChatGPT. A lot of good can come from that. A lot. And as a matter of fact, I used to say if I had a school, I wouldn't have a single textbook. You come in with a laptop, a flash drive, and you got internet, you good. It would be very efficient to do things that way. It would save money, and it would open a lot of opportunities. I have resources from all over the world through technology and globalization. But if I get all of this, and I'm just thinking to myself, boy, I got a new laptop, yeah. The amount of games I can play on this. Not thinking the amount of effort I'm going to put into making sure I get good, making sure that I can market myself, making sure I can do live streaming, making sure I know how to program. I'm not going to use my internet connection for anything more than talking to friends, which is good, but talking to friends, I'm not going to look for online courses, not going to look for YouTube videos to teach myself anything. It's like, even in the ethics, you would have mentioned teaching ethics in the school as one of the parts of the educational reform. That's good, and I agree with that completely. But you're teaching them all of this for them to then not do anything. You still have to start with the mindset. Will they be willing to acknowledge that technology is a tool? Will they be willing to push their push their mindset away from toy and just consumer, and would you be able to shift it to let me use this to develop society, let me use this to develop myself, let me use this to be more productive, more efficient in the way that I do things. Like, there's a lot to consider when it comes to how we approach the technology that we have. And in education, where you want to push learning, the distraction of that mindset, I know that that's not necessarily the best way to put it, but the distraction of that mindset is a very prominent thing, where you have all these opportunities, but you just refuse to take them because you can't see it as any more than games.
Yeah.
I want to respond there real quick, sorry, and
Okay,
I
no
don't
problem.
want to be
Go ahead.
taking up too much time. Two things you said which totally unrelated to what you were saying, but the word market and then usage, right? So for marketing, what that struck in my brain, my head bad, I forgetting of things. But realistically, just teaching students how to program, teaching IT and ICT in schools is a waste of time. Again, I have a very negative outlook on education. I don't feel I learned anything in secondary school that prepared me for my life. But realistically, if you're going to teach students programming, you'd prepare them to be slave labor. When I hire or outsource to Egypt or outsource to Pakistan, I pay extremely low wages for extremely high amounts of hours of programming work. What students are not taught is how to take that programming knowledge, market, how to run a business, how to do their accounting. The programming knowledge by itself is no use unless you can turn that into a business. So separating technology from business studies is an injustice to the technology students because you just prepare them to be workforce drones. All of the tech CEOs that are big, the education levels are lower than almost all of you, by far. They started late in their lives, and most of them are not necessarily even experts in their fields of which their companies are, but they had business sense. Some of them had the technological understanding, but they partnered with people that did have the business sense, but were also technologically inclined. The other thing is, don't disenfranchise the youth in Barbados. They're not that bad. When I was young, I was special. I was an individual that was inclined to computers. I was naturally good at it. I was one of a kind. I look around, I see a million of me. Children, my daughter, automatically she could pick up she got a remote, and she's looking at the TV to see what she's pressing and the effect. They can pick their videos from the phones. These are things that back in my time, I would have to get a phone call and go and get somebody remote for them or utilize the phone. So there are a million of me now that have the capacity and the inclination to technology that is not hard for them to break into this field. Right? Like I said, technology is the easiest field to get into and the easiest field to make money with. All you need to do is to be literate. And I want to jump in on drones because you talk about the government not keeping up with why still can't fly my drone? Drone, I mean, is a big industry. Right now, war drives innovation. War is what drives technology. We could be producing some drones and peddling it, and it isn't hard to make. We got a Chinese embassy here, partner with them, bring out a factory, build some drones and sell it. I mean, it's not hard. And for policing, for Coast Guard, for agriculture. And we are here stifled with simple legislation. You just copy and paste from Canada or the US. We are not special. The airport, that's it. Them got 10 and 12 airports. The drones automatically avoid airports, they avoid certain heights. If you fly over near Grand Islands Airport, the drone will turn around and come back. So, I mean, the government needs to keep up with tech. And the government got a million tech departments and divisions and this and that. What were they doing? When the website's down, you understand? Simple things, tasks that should be, technology is supposed to be here to make our lives easier, but it feels like a struggle here, not just for the youth, but anybody. Right. We should be training drone pilots from secondary school level, primary school level. You used to have hobbyists, airplanes, hobbyists, helicopters. Drone pilots should be trained from very young because there's an in-demand field right now.
It is.
And easy work, and you could work from anywhere.
Okay.
So, left that there.
Want to join in?
So what I wanted to quickly include about how technology would work in education reformation. I definitely agree with him in terms of teaching students how to use ChatGPT properly. But the perspective that I now want to bring is on the same topic, but like on a slightly different side. Now, I want to look at it from the perspective of teachers. Teachers have to deal, like the ratios like wants, like however many children may be in a classroom. And it's not a situation where every child has or prefers the same teaching style. So if we are able to incorporate AI as more of an assistant to the teachers in terms of creating that personalized learning for the children who are coming up within the education system, I see that as one of the perfect solutions that could be proposed. Because as it currently stands right now, not any fault of the teachers, but it's kind of hard to keep track of all those different children. So at some point in time, inevitably, students begin to fall through the cracks, so to speak. So if it is possible to have like a term, like I would call it like a teaching assistant model, where each child, as long as they have access like a tablet or something, so they could be taught the topic, but in the way that it is best receptive for them. Some persons could just be fine with reading words, but some persons prefer like a little bit more of an audio visual appeal. Correct. So I could definitely see that as something that is beneficial to look into as well in terms of the education transformation.
Right. I think one of the issues educators have, because I have spoken to a lot of educators about ChatGPT, is that when you're just putting in a prompt and getting responses back, that metacognitive function is not happening there. You're not processing the information, you're not applying critical thinking skills, deductive reasoning is very copy and paste. Also, I find a lot of teachers complain about the kinesthetic skills, reading and writing, motor skills. When there's an over-reliance on technology, we see a deterioration in handwriting. I've had someone tell me that I write like I had a stroke. I try my best not to be offended by that, but I know I do so much typing, handwriting deteriorates. So there's that side of things. Traditional teaching has led to us having certain skills. When we take that away, will we lose those skills, and will that cause problems for us down the road? Something I'm thinking about as I heard two of y'all speak is, do we have any strategies or incubators here that promote or encourage entrepreneurs to go into technological fields? I don't know what the Division of Youth is doing with respect to encouraging young entrepreneurs in the fields of technology, but do y'all know of any programs available in Barbados that encourage or incentivize young entrepreneurs in the technological sector?
Well, I'm going 40 next year, so I'm far from young, but back then I know Charles Cyrus was heading up, well, the acting head, almost his entire career, of the National Council of Science and Technology, and he had a lot of positive initiatives that did not see the light of day because of the lack of funding. That is something that needs to be done. Like I said, I'm not sure how to structure it. That's not my field, policy and that sort of stuff, but a Silicon Valley type setup for incubators, and I don't think we need big business to jump into tech or existing business people. I think we need to get a lot of the unemployed persons that are there getting these skill sets, or at least being guided in what tools. Can I talk about, you could go and download an app or visit a video, but I didn't tell you which ones. So some guidance there to drive those persons to that, and then some incentive, you know. Same way how we have vocational training, we could do that for, I think technology, our technology skills are so basic, you know, some of them fall on the same vocational level. They don't require much skill set, no diplomas, no degrees, and you can get that done. To what he would have mentioned, I remember submitting a document, proposal for a piece of software, two pieces of software, a computer-aided teaching environment and a computer-aided learning environment, long before the rise of AI. This is like 2008, 2009, which would have aided teachers and everything you spoke about, and the students and everything he spoke about as well. That's why he shook his hand. The different type of learning styles you're speaking about, you'll find there are three types of students. You have the average student, of which the education system is based around. You have those who are a little bit more intelligent, or far more intelligent, and then those that are a little behind. And as a result, everyone being lumped into the average, you can get the more intelligent students being bored. And like my class, we would draw, we would talk, make jokes, labeled as deviant. The slower students that don't understand because it's going ahead too fast for them, they get frustrated. They do the same thing, they're labeled as deviants. Now, none of them benefit from the education because they pull the class. We actually had a group of us that would just dig the class, you know, and that was because of there not being a facility for students that are more advanced, that learn quicker, and then facilities for students that need to catch up. And lacking those things, I think that is a way, as we said, that artificial intelligence could assist teachers and the students in going ahead.
I just want to add, I believe there was a program that dealt with cybersecurity. There was, and I think that's a very important area as well, because most young persons do have access to funds, have access to a bank, and we're seeing quite a number of conversation in terms of how do we secure, you know, our information, because everyone who has a cell phone, everyone who has any electronic device must think about data protection. How do I protect my privacy? How do I protect my information? And is my information safe? And that's what we're talking in terms of your service providers. Do you trust your service providers in terms of your data protection? And we're seeing what legislation has been doing in terms of what is happening in the US with TikTok right now. where TikTok is practically banned or will be banned in certain societies because of data protection. And I think these are the types of conversation that we have. It's not just having a device. And I always, sometimes you see those conversations of persons going on the internet, being fraud. In this time, people are still getting, those emails that, you got lost in Egypt and you need money.
Yeah.
People are especially the most vulnerable, and I think this is what the ethical concerns are, where the most vulnerable in our societies do not understand how dangerous it can be on the internet. We're seeing in other societies, including Caribbean societies, where people have been harmed physically and even killed or murdered because they went online and met someone. And so these are the kinds of questions and these are the kinds of concerns that we also have to look at. The dangerous part of the technologies that we use, the areas of human trafficking, because trafficking usually starts online. That's how they recruit their victims. And then the victims, whatever, and the traffickers, that's how they, in terms of making the kinds of connection. So I think it's very important that we look at that, but also the infrastructure. Infrastructure is something that we have to speak of. We take it into consideration, and I was reading a report from UNDP that the number of persons do not have access to tablets and cell phones that we assume that they do. We assume that a lot of persons have access to internet at their homes. And when you look at the research, this is not the reality, because COVID showed us that during that period, during the pandemic, a lot of students did not have access to devices, did not have access to the internet. And so when we think about it, we have to look at those inequalities that exist within our society, that though we believe that everybody has the access, the reality is that there are some persons in our society that cannot afford the internet. I believe the internet should be free. But that's for a different conversation. So these are the kinds of things that we need to talk about, the infrastructure. How do we ensure that every member in our society have access to just the basic? Because I believe that you can't even imagine someone not having access to the internet at home. But that is a reality for a lot of persons. And I think this is the kinds of conversation that we have to have when we're speaking about policy development. So that when you move yourself from the consumer, you're moving yourself to governance. And how do we govern, or what we call e-governance? How do we regulate, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's consumer, whether it's data protection, and also cybersecurity, which is a really major concern, because even government sites in the Caribbean have been hacked. And you can also imagine how that can impact within your society as well.
Just to jump in there, a few things. Like I said, my head bad. Cybersecurity. Governments need to do better. This practice of releasing the voters list online is madness. And then the excuse being, Guyana and St. Lucia's do it too. So we just jumping off cliffs behind people. You're posting people addresses, the ages, the ID card numbers. Your ID card number is essentially your social security number, being posted in full on the internet for access for free on the government website. This thing met rounds in the dark web. It met rounds also on nefarious telegrams. And people were even buying them until they realized they could get it for free. And when they have this information from you, then you get those emails about your Nigerian cousin and your Ethiopian uncle. Another thing that I realized this panel is shied away from that I can jump in hard because when I'm messing up my living is crypto and the governments. Yeah. And I don't know if it's that they're following the banks or they don't want poor people to get rich. The reluctance to accept crypto is gonna be another situation where we are left behind, mining these big countries, because the US filed their patent for their digital dollar.
Right.
The central banks trying to do their thing, but all about the people. The concept of cryptocurrency was developed for individuals like me, you, the persons that don't have any generational wealth, to be able to tap into money, tap into money that grows. If Bajans had access to buy crypto a number of times in the past 10 years, a lot of us would be millionaires. But for instance, you buy over $10, $15, $20, the bank shot your card. And I saw their pass recently that they reserve the right to freeze your accounts. Perfectly legal.
So I believe the minister wants to respond to a comment made. So we're going to hand the floor over to you for a bit.
Yes, not a comment, a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I happen to know first let me say that I'm blown away by the information that's being shared tonight. I happen to know the Minister of Youth, and not a single proposal would have visited his desk in relation to all of this that is happening here on now.
Right.
And we spoke about sports before, the Ministry of Sports and Youth, and not a proposal I have seen in relation to let's see how we can get our at-risk youth involved in all of the technology. I am prepared to look at any proposal. I am not sure, I'm sure the male panelists will have to say which government department they would have sent a proposal to in relation to not moving in silos, but to share the information and developing our young people. How can we use the AI to assist with sports? How can we use the AI to get some of my youngsters who are gravitating onto the blocks involved in gaming and this type of activity? That is the question that I'm putting to the male panelists.
Sorry. Well, the NCF would have
done a
good job.
You're in teaching, man, so I don't expect that you're going to send that proposal to me. But these are the ones who are pushing the AI strong. So I'm just trying to figure out why we have not seen proposals at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment in relation to all of the knowledge that they're sharing tonight.
All right, so I was going to say that the NCF and the NCST have done a good job over the years, because we did a lot of programs where I would have taught video game development to a lot of people, a lot of students, and the focus is at-risk youth, which is my specialty, because I'm the anti-school guy for the most part. So I usually get the youth that drop out, and I try to focus them on technology and skills that they can earn a living with. I think a problem with the program is that they expected deliverables, which is difficult when you give me a 2-week program and I say we want 12 video games, a video game for each of the 12 students at the end of 2 weeks or the end of 3 weeks, which is crazy. What I try to focus on is the skills to allow them to be, as I tell them at the beginning of the class, to be the boss. The person that hires the programmer, the person that hires the audio engineer, the person that hires the artist, and then how them as an individual can go about producing a video game themselves from start to completion and to publish. I don't think that lined up with, I guess, political aspirations. You got something to show off what you do. So that may cause problems. In terms of the emails and not receiving anything, chat with the IT men. When they don't respond to emails, over the years I've sent, like I said, thousands of emails. And I know of a number of technologies. I mean, I saw an article talking about gun violence. The guns got the best of the police. There's a technology that a local technology person has the license for that could scan up to a mile and detect gunpowder in your pocket, in your shoe, in your vehicle, on a boat, and they can attach this to drones, and this could solve the problem the police have literally overnight. And the devices are cheap, and you only charge for a successful scan. And it works. And multiple emails have been sent to all of the relevant government offices, and I'm making this a technology problem because clearly IT men are doing a job because you all get your emails.
No, I can't accept that, to be honest with you. I have a program running at the ministry, Project Dawn, where we go to all of the blocks to try to ascertain the needs of the youngsters. And I think a program like this that is using technology would be beneficial to those who are seasoned there and to the young ones who are now gravitating there. So I can clearly say to you tonight that no email came to the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment for any proposal to engage our young men. None.
Okay.
We will look into that.
Well, we soon have to wrap up. So final thoughts and comments from the panel.
I just wanted to thank everyone for inviting me to this discussion. I think I've learned so much this evening. From our first panelists, there's a lot of information that I think that would be very useful for the entire society, not only our policymakers, but also that we should embrace technology. For generations, throughout centuries, this is what this is what humanity has done. And I think it's important that not only that we embrace it, but also that we recognize that there are dangers that comes with technology as well. And so there's always the question, what does a scientist do if he knows that it's, it could be hazardous or dangerous to humanity? Does he think about just science, or does he think about ethics? So it's important that we embrace both, that we recognize that we have those tools, right, but we use them the right and ethical way. So because it's very important that we do that, not only for our generation, but for the generation to come. Thank you, everyone.
Alrighty. So thank you so much, guys. You've been a wonderful panel, and the expertise you shared was invaluable. All right, so we're going to introduce now Mr. Shaquan Smith. Y'all can go back to your seats. We're going to introduce Mr. Shaquan Smith doing a song, Something Greater by Edwin Yearwood. Mr. Shaquan Smith.
Cha-cha. Alright. I'm a drifting stranger in the land of the not so free, where there's never care for a weary soul in this reckless society, where a poor man can't have equality, or his offspring's a bright morrow. And the fight is torn on the tired bones, leaving almost nowhere to go. So we must keep tumbling and fighting on, cause I made my discovery that we can't ever seem to realize man's his own greatest enemy. A lion is only a threat to man when man crosses on his domain. Man to man will always be cruel to man, and that way will never be changed. So I must believe
that there's something greater than me.
To keep up the fight, I've just got to see
that there's something greater than me.
Take your head off the closer look till you see
that there's something greater than me.
Tell me wrongfully and I'll still be free.
That there's something greater
than me. Cha-cha, cha-cha. There's something greater than me. Cha-cha, cha-cha. Man still trying to separate his brothers with class and creed. Upper class, middle class, and lower class, with the lower following lead. Separation shows like a sore thumb eye, and it spreads are rapid and fast. Man not die in bed, needs a donor's blood. Does he request a certain class? No, wait, no. Who am I just to wanderer, passing judgments and kick and fuss? Because death is a crucial part of life, when man returns to nothing but dust. And I wipe my tears and I start to fear, smiling on the class that we came. But when rich and poor returns back to dust, that the texture remains the same. So I must believe
that there's something greater than me.
To keep up the fight, I've just got to see
that there's something greater than me.
Take your hand off the closer look till you see
that there's something greater than me.
Tell me wrongfully and I still be free.
That there's something greater
than me. Cha-cha, cha-cha. There's something greater than me. Cha-cha, cha-cha. Something greater than me. Cha-cha, cha-cha. My description question of jumper shirts, getting out to look just like we. Oh, my question of jumper shirts, getting out to look just like we. But can't trust the play through a tight system without any authority. And your fights like we distributing it and taking life without mercy. Take a knife strip to any system, yeah. Do we look like authority? No, religion, dying religion, don't leaving you to feel so confused. And false prophets counting the prophet gain. Our religion is fully abused. Why were leaders seemingly more concerned of their own welfare and bliss? They tried to hide the truth from the whole wide world. Racism no longer exists, so I must believe
that there's something greater than me.
To keep up the fight, I've just got to see
that there's something greater
alright,
than me.
take your hand off the closer look till you see
that there's something greater than me.
Jail me wrongfully and I still be free.
That there's something greater
oh, cha 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 cha. There's something greater than me. Cha 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 cha. There's something greater than me. Cha 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 cha. There's something greater than me. Oh, something greater than me. Cha 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 cha. There's something greater than me. Cha 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 cha. There's something greater than me. Thank you.
All right, good night, everyone, again. It's with great pleasure that I get to introduce the last panel, which would be Mr. Caleb Braffett, Mr. Jordan English, and Mr. James Clark. You guys can make your way to the stairs right now. Can you get a round of applause for them? Alrighty, so this is our final panel of the night, and we're going to be covering youth and entrepreneurship. So I'm going to start with Mr. Braffett. What would you say are some desires of young persons in a Barbadian economy?
Such a broad question, but when you really look at it and when you try to link it to that of entrepreneurship, many young people want to get in it. But we have to come to the realization that not every single person can be an entrepreneur because you need workers in society. An entrepreneur needs employees, right? So everyone has a desire to make money. So that is where it really comes down. But we have to be able to become real about it, is that not everyone can be an entrepreneur, but you could still be able to do entrepreneurship on the side. You get what I'm saying? Because imagine a society with only entrepreneurs. Who will be the workers? Yeah, you know?
Okay. What would you say, Mr. English?
Yeah, I think this is one of the best points that I hear in a while. Good night, my name is Jordan. Outside of being on Instagram and doing entertainment, I have a bar and restaurant and a taco truck that has a permanent location at Savvy, and then one that is mobile, so it goes around to different events. So we just specialize in selling tacos and like essentially fast food. I've been an entrepreneur from about 17. I like it sometimes. Yeah, I like it sometimes, you understand? Yeah, they just want to give an introduction first so that y'all know who y'all talking to. I think So, sorry, what was the question again? What was the desires?
Yeah, what would you say are the desires of young persons from the economy of Barbados?
We'll be here all night. Like, I think every different business has its specific desires. I think broadly, I just think to be a little more digital, which I must say, like Barbados, we are getting there. You're able to pay like suppliers on like first pay. You're able to get like email receipts and stuff. Even like registering, incorporating your business now, you could just do it online at Kaipo and stuff. So in the about 5 years I've been in business, I've watched the developments that I want to happen actively happening. So yeah, sometimes we focus too much on what we want, but we should acknowledge like the progresses, the small progresses that are happening. And especially I travel a lot, so I want to say like Barbados business market is a very well more advanced than a lot of the small islands. And I just think it's just for the business market to keep progressing and being more digital, everything being more accessible from your phone, everything being like a quicker process as opposed to like before you had to go and stand up in like warrens around the thing, stand up all day, wait in lines. So yeah, to just keep moving the digital part of business, like just keep progressing. That's all I really desire me myself.
So it seems like what you're saying is that a lot of steps have already been taken to promote the entrepreneurship in Barbados, and that maybe we should acknowledge some of the progress that we've made, but keep moving forward. It's not the case that we haven't been doing nothing at all.
Yeah, like certain things, like when they first started, like even like registering your business, like that was a whole do-don't. That alone meant me gonna get a job somewhere because like that was a whole like 3-month process. You understand? Then you go like incorporate your business. Like okay, so now we gotta get a lawyer, spend like 12, like crazy money. Like that whole process has been simplified now. Even like accounting, like there's so many like even like the accounting firms that I working with now, they're giving you like little apps and stuff that like way more easier than spending a big lot of money for an accountant. You going through a whole heap of papers and stuff. So it's like, yeah. In past, since they started to know, I seeing these things happening and it's making like business way more easier to do. You could do it remotely. Like I travel way more now because it's like everything more clicky.
So before I go on to Mr. Clark, so you're saying that with the introduction of technology as well, that's been facilitating the business process, and once again, a way that maybe we should take advantage of, or that we should acknowledge. So I guess that's something that we could say has been doing.
Because my age, like we digital, like me, for example, I build my clientele digitally. I speak to my clientele every day digital. Like we just do phone from morning to night. You understand? So like, getting down to revenue authority and standing in the building, standing in a line for like 3 hours, I don't even sound like I can't comprehend. You understand? Because everything is already so convenient. We don't even leave the business on a day-to-day basis to do anything anymore. Even meetings, like I don't go to we hardly go to in-person meetings anymore. Like all of them things is like time-consuming.
Okay, thank you, Mr. English. So we'll go on to Mr. Clark. Well, what would you think that young entrepreneurs would desire in a Barbadian economy?
I think, based on what has been said before, it sounds like definitely the support services of an environment that is open for business, that supports business facilitation, makes the processes that you need to do to run your business easily accessible, simple to navigate. They make sense. You don't spend half your day doing things for compliance when you really need to be running your business. I think if you look in business literature now, there's a lot of studies have been done about how much time people waste in useless meetings and various things rather than doing actual work. And you'll find there's a lot of, we can do all this stuff with the technology, yes, it does all of these things, but does it actually add value to what you're doing? Or does it detract from what you really, and you've heard that firsthand. Yeah, so it's that, and this is something that goes right through from a single person as an entrepreneur, right through to large companies. Certainly from the chamber where I sit, business facilitation is always a big topic.
Correct.
So, you know, and it makes it even more difficult if you are a smaller organization. You don't have necessarily all the resources all the time, whether it be in people or time or cash or whatever, to do what you're doing, to tackle some of these requirements and things that you need. So that is, I would say that's probably one of the major, just having that welcoming environment for business, yeah.
Okay, great. So what would you say, Mr. Braffett, are some things that could be done in Barbados to support the young entrepreneurs that we already have? How could we take them from point A to point B?
I think Mr. Clark would have touched on the point on the support services. And also, too, we have to really, when it comes down to educational reform, when we look in terms of the secondary school and really look at in terms of the curriculum, how principles of business and principle association is really taught. And I'm glad that the Ministry of Education would introduce the financial literacy program, because that's also essential when you look at entrepreneurship. So we also have to get out the mindset of the traditional avenues of entrepreneurship. For example, in terms of even the financial business sector, as Jordan would have said, he has his taco business. Look at other new and innovative ways, and Savvy and be a popular place. Look at other new and innovative ways and how to ensure that young people could be able to aspire to be entrepreneur, and not only in terms of making money here locally, but regionally and exporting this model internationally.
All right. Jordan, English?
I think from like second, maybe like BCC level and UA level. Cause I went to BCC and I would really like learn the tools to do my first business. And I found like BCC was give me the tools that I need. Like I could go and start to build a clientele one time. And then when I went to UE, I was like, yo, they're like preparing me to go and register for a job, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but they're sending me up for a job in a transitioning market. So I was doing marketing, for example, and the marketing that they were teaching at UE is like setting me up to go and apply in someone's marketing department, where everybody knows that like marketing departments are decreasing every day because a lot of companies like outsourcing marketing with agencies, you understand, smaller agencies, and sometimes just like two lone people that have a video camera and a laptop, you understand? So I think from like university level is to train forward and not train back, because I don't know about the other like subjects or something, but the subject that I went was teaching me to go and get like a traditional marketing job, whereas there is a transition in marketing economy. So we need to train like younger people forward, even if it hasn't got there yet. Been like, yo, we realize that everything is going digital. Like we train to be digital. Like we train you to make proposals to businesses to do small marketing campaigns for them, as opposed to ask them for a job in their marketing department, which is shrinking every day. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So what do you think could be done to keep the young persons thinking forward thinking, and not, I guess, seeking to just be in, let's say, just a marketing job in a regular company? How could we keep them focused on marketing as an entrepreneur themselves?
I don't know how you keep people focused, Gus. That's a hard question, you know. I don't know. I don't even know how to keep myself focused. So, you know, like you could do as much programs as you want. People gonna want for yourself. You understand? So people is like when it comes down to nitty gritty, people gonna want for themselves. But maybe we need to highlight like a lot of things that seem out of reach. Like when I was younger, like running a business, it seemed like out of reach. Whereas when it really come on the market, there's a lot of young people. They even got people younger than me. There's a girl that I know that runs a wig store, like just selling wigs. Yo, she breaking the bank. You know what I'm saying? She like 22. And there's a lot lot of businesses are not highlighted, and there's a lot of markets, you understand, that are not like so highly, you call it like highly televised. You understand, like as televised as being a doctor, a lawyer, accounting firms. These things are not televised, and I still feel like the traditional jobs are like given way too much credit. It's way too televised. Like I went to school, I got friends that are lawyers, doctors. Like they're doing good, they're doing okay, but they can't run it at all. You understand? And I know people that are doing little just buy and sell stuff, a lot of little businesses that they can't run up against. So maybe like we need to put some more congratulations, some more, we need to televise a lot of these smaller micro businesses in Barbados that are cashing out that might not be so highly, like, you know, like commercially respected.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah. All right, I'm going to come back to that, but before I do, Mr. Clark, how would you say that the Barbadian economy, or maybe even the business sector, how could they support the young entrepreneurs that we have in the country?
So there are a number of ways, and certainly, and it could be, again, it's, you said support. So any type of assistance with running a business, you know, scaling a business. You know, it's one thing when you can do one thing as one person, you start out doing one thing in yourself. How do you scale that up? 5 people, 10 people, 50 people. Can you franchise it? Can you, you know, how do you grow your business? So it's anything, services, advisory, anything like that around those areas. Also, by business is changing even more rapidly now than ever. So businesses always need new ways of doing things. So an entrepreneur may start outside. An entrepreneur could actually be within the business. You may have a job and you may be working somewhere, but you recognize there's somewhere that you could take that business or an aspect of that business. And you could almost be an entrepreneur within a company, even though you're an employee. So I think, you know, businesses can put out their asks for people. You know, I need this. I need somebody who has experience with this, and we don't have it in house, but we need people who can do it. So I think it's this kind of a symbiotic relationship where, you know, you're coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing things, and that, you know, you come up with an excellent way of doing this particular process, which has an application, for example, in a series of restaurants, okay? And you could say, you know, like, look, this is how I'm doing this. You could sell that on. You could advise, you know, these types of things. So it's just interplay of in the whole market. Yeah.
Oh, I always say a restaurant is not a good business.
Not a good one.
It's not a great business. It look good, but it's not a great business.
But you know, that is how McDonald's started, for example. They improved the processes of restaurant, and then were able to expand and do so there's these types of things. You know, it's like better ways of doing stuff. Sometimes you get a breakthrough in doing something radically different with radically new technologies. Sometimes it's just using existing technologies to refine the existing processes to make them better, faster, and so on.
And would you say that sufficient is being done right now to assist the young persons that have these young entrepreneurs in your professional capacity? Would you say sufficient is being done at this point?
I think there are a number of associations and so on, other business service organizations and so on, which encourage entrepreneurship and mentorship programs and so on. These are all things that we certainly would support. And also, I think, you know, it needs to be encouraged, and I think it also needs to speak a bit more about what entrepreneurship really is. It's seeing something new and doing something in a different way. You know, it's not saying, well, they have 5 people that build these chairs that look like this, and I'm going to be number 6. You know, you're not doing anything different, right? So it's looking for it's new ways and new new markets, new ways of doing things, and so on. I think it would be helpful, though, certainly with the young entrepreneurs, is getting some more feedback from them on that same question: how can we help you? Yeah, I think that would also be very helpful too, because then you can start to pair people up and so on in ways that may be very helpful for everyone. Yeah.
Sounds like a project that BYDC must do.
Yeah.
I was just about to second
definitely.
that, Caleb. Go on, Miss English.
No, I was gonna say like somehow maybe like more networking events connected, certain being like get access to some people, because a business person I met only like 3 years in or like 2.5 years in like gave me like like they just gave me a piece of information that changed the game completely. And that's like when they started to scale my business, when they actually like franchised the taco shop now, like straight after that. And he was just like, you can't see the business because you in it. And everybody think that they're running a business, but majority of us are like self-employed. You understand? Like we like say we can open like a shoe business, then we end up making shoes every day. We say, yo, we doing business, but really we self-employed. And when I first opened like the bar, I in the bar every day making drinks and running, trying to deal with people, trying to deal with customers. But like, I not even getting time to really see where the mistakes happening, where the leakage is happening. You understand? Where the loss is coming from. You understand? And then like after 2 years, and then I get that information, I started to be like, you know what? He was like, yo, invest in like an assistant. And I'm like, yo, I can spend that kind of money on some way to just do these little things. And that was the game changer. Like when I put that person in place to deal with like all the smaller tasks that consume my time, I was able to like focus on the major problem solving. You understand? It's like you could see the business completely different when you're not like heavily invested in it every single day. You understand? Yeah, when you're fixing the small issues, anymore you're able to like focus, you're able to like analyze all the major problems. And it's like, it was right in front of you all the time, but you were so consumed with getting this customer down, getting this drink, getting that food down, that you wasn't even seeing that. Because you got this type of fridge, you spoil his rate at, you understand? So yeah.
All right, and that's actually a really good point, and I wanted to tie that into something everyone said. At the beginning, Caleb, you said that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. We still need employees in the businesses. And you're mentioning now that it's when you employed someone to handle those tasks that you were able to sit back and look at the business and make the correct decisions that you needed to make.
Yeah.
So now I want to ask another question. Recently, early this year, Youth Parliament would have debated the concern of youth unemployment in the country. So, Caleb, I would like to ask you, how serious would you say the youth unemployment issue is? What are the consequences of it? And what could be done to promote employment in youth? And maybe even what could the young persons do themselves?
Well, I don't have the stats and data in front of me to really speak from an informed position. But what I can say is that just today I was assisting someone in terms of finding them employment. And from time to time, people reach out to me, random strangers, never met them. They say, okay, President BYDC, if you could assist me in getting employment. I always try my best to assist them in getting employment. As I've said, I know the ministers there, I've said in the press conference that there are many opportunities for young people to benefit in this country. But the problem comes is that these opportunities are not known. What needs to happen is a centralized information hub across government departments and government ministries where these opportunities are at the fingertips of young people. Because sometimes there's opportunities, a website here, a website here, a website here, and sometimes those informations are lost in the tracks. So we have to play a greater role as a country in ensuring that these opportunities are known. And what we have to also do is become real. We are only 166 square miles, and not every single opportunity can be found in this country. We have seen people go on abroad and have done excellent things and also contribute to the economic activity of this country. And we must be frank about these discussions and ensuring that even though you may go abroad for some time, some people also come back, send back money and contribute to the economy. You're only 160 square miles. So for example, we've seen it with Rihanna. Rihanna wouldn't have been an international superstar she is today. She would have remained in Barbados. So we have to become real about these discussions.
Okay. Mr. Clark, how would you say that we could tackle the youth unemployment issue in the country? What could we do to promote what could we do to promote employment amongst young persons?
So I think, just what Caleb said, there is, certainly there's generally jobs available. You look in the paper, you talk to any companies, there are jobs available. It's making that connection, getting people on board. And one of the things that I think would be very helpful, and from young people that I know, even my own children, when they're in school, I told them, if you have an opportunity to do a program which has a co-op, so where you get a job placement for a period of time, that in any educational program, it lets them try out. So it has a few opportunities. You get to try out a job in your chosen field. You get to see what it's like to work in a business. You get to decide whether what you've done, you may like it, you may not. It's better to find out that you don't like it any early before you are 10 years in and you have a mortgage and all these other things, and it's more difficult to move. So that helps, and then it helps you then, you meet people in business, and you never know, that may land you your first job, or you may get a really good idea and say, you know what, I can actually do this for myself, or this is a new technology which I would really like to run with. And so it's not just going through school and learning this and passing exams and so on. You're actually now applying what you've learned. So there's got to be a big component of application. It's not just learning theory and filling a head full of formulas and this type of stuff. You actually need to put it into use, and seeing how that can be done, from early o'clock, the earlier the better, I think would go a long way into helping people understand that, there's, you see opportunities before you. And the other thing is, earlier on in earlier talks, we heard about, you got to be an architect, a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever the case may be. That's not for everybody, okay? And you may love doing, you might like doing upholstery. What's wrong with that? There's no shame in that. Just be the best darn upholsterer that they have, right? And you will never lack for work. You will get through. So there's all these opportunities around, yeah. And don't get sidelined by saying, well, I can't be a lawyer. But that may be just soul destroying for you. You may just have your interests and so on lie somewhere else, or any other profession for that matter. So I think just looking and approaching your environment and life more broadly, looking to see what's available, what are people doing, where do you think technology is going? For example, climate science right now. What can you do? What can we do? You may think, well, it's such a massive problem, what can we do? But there are things that all of us can do every day that can help ameliorate the situation. Yeah, and that's critical. We speak about the power of computing, okay, and all the technology, and it's wonderful. All of these things, what AI can do, and crypto, and everything can do. The amount of electricity that they take right now, and what that is forecast to grow to in the next 4 to 5 years, is unbelievable. Where is this energy coming from? Okay, so is it going to come from sources that contribute to global warming, right? So there's a whole area of technology here in climate science and climate mitigation and energy and all of these things where people can get involved, and that's a massive one. The other one, of course, is food, right? Food, habitation. It may sound trite, but these are the application of technology to these areas. I was looking at a reel the other day. These guys that make building blocks that look like Lego, and you literally lift them up by your hand, and they're made with fibrous and so on. They're extremely strong, and you assemble them like Lego. You don't have to stick them together. They actually interlock with one another, and you can build a house out of these things. If you wish to move your house, you take it apart and move it with you, block by block. I thought that was pretty cool, you know, really, really interesting technology. So, and what I also find nowadays is, of course, I'm dating myself, and somebody mentioned the encyclopedias earlier. You know, these were massive volumes. I never had a set of them. But nowadays, all this stuff is available on the internet. I mean, it's just incredible, the amount of information that's available. That, you know, you use it. Yeah, you just stimulate ideas. What do you see in your environment around you? What is there something that you can do with what you have right now? And so I think right now the opportunities are tremendous, but it may take, you know, associations like yourselves and other business service organizations to sit down with people and say, look, this is how you can actually turn this into a business or a profession or anything for that matter. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. English. Same question.
Give me a question again.
Right. The question was, how could we tackle the youth unemployment issue?
Oh, the unemployment?
Yeah.
My youth ain't want to work, man.
Well, you said that, Mr. English.
They don't want to work. Let me be real. They don't want to work. They don't want money to buy your shoes and shirts.
Yeah.
They don't want to work. But, you know what I mean? A lot of people, I think Barbados has a good employment market. As they tell you, it's travel a lot. They move around a lot. Like, Barbados has a good employment market. I just think that, as I said, there's too much glamorizing of specific jobs. So everybody lined up to work at the bank. Everybody want to be a teller, wear a suit and tie. Everybody want to wear this fancy stuff. But they don't want to go and work. Like you were saying, like with upholstery. I just upholster every single chair and like all the furniture with me. This man charged me like $4,500. I thought he was scamming. I still can't get with that invoice up to no, but $4,500 to like you get like black leatherette and stuff from our beds. You know, I had to run through them invoices, but that was like just clear $4,500 from me just in like fixing some chairs. Oh no, I can't get it, understand, but you understand? And the man just cleaning it up. And then like even like my truck man, like we don't glamorize like being a freighter, but like my truck man like he be clearing like sometimes like $800 a day was it. When you do like $800 a day, even if you spend $200 in that spend, if you clear like $600 a day, you understand, at least 3 days a week. You understand? You're at $1,800 a week. You done going past that bank, tell a salary like you understand. But when you're young, you ain't in school saying, yo guys, go to school, be a truck driver. You understand? It's not glamorized. Oh yeah, you bring you come home to saying what he does do, or he's a truck driver. You understand? But I know truck drivers are raking it on the side. So I don't think it's like we got a job problem. I just think it's just that the jobs that everybody glamorize might have a limitation on them. But we need to put more glamorizing on the other markets that like making a lot of money.
So what I'm starting to realize is, so we have the opportunities available. We just need to find a way to make sure that these people know they're out there and to not be looking in the same place for the same jobs, because obviously then the quantity would decrease. And then what is available in the other areas, people would not seek after those ones. So I guess we would have to find a way, and Caleb, maybe our organization may have to find a way to narrow that gap as well. Okay. So we're going to go to the final questions, the final answers, and I'll start with Caleb, and we can go down the line from there.
I think that we all agree on the panel that there are opportunities available for young people. We all could agree that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. We have to relook the educational system in terms of the knowledge we put out there and put into children in terms of what is needed to be able to ensure that Barbados can continue to thrive, in terms that everyone has a part to play in society, from the sanitation worker right up to the lawyer, the politician. So we can all say that we have homework to do and to be able to ensure that everything that we said here can really be actualized and ensure that we can continue to uplift young people.
Mr. Clapp?
Yes, absolutely. I really think that we live in a world now where the opportunities there are a myriad of opportunities. It's absolutely amazing. And I think that, as English says, you just look broadly, and there's no shame in what you're doing. Everybody has a role to play in society. We still live in a physical world. We can't hit reset on everything and everything done on a screen. We still need plumbers, electricians, and carpenters, and masons, and nurses, and doctors, and we still have to do many things with our hands to live. And once we're doing that, it's there doesn't seem to be a shortage of those jobs right now. And in fact, globally, in many countries, I think you'll find that the vocational jobs and so on are in high demand, very high demand. So I still think there's lots of opportunity once people keep their eyes open and don't. This came up earlier in one of the other. I think one of the other panelists had mentioned, you're groomed for a job, kind of pigeonholed. Take the information, but know that you can go much more broadly than that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. English?
Yeah, definitely. With entrepreneur being good, I know a lot of my friends that have decent jobs that make a lot more money than certain entrepreneurs. You understand? So, entrepreneurship, a company needs strong employees as well. So I just feel like it's for people to be realistic with yourself. You understand? Because it's way harder to be an entrepreneur. You discipline. We discipline levels got to be crazy because there's no person standing up over you, giving you ultimatums. You understand? So it's you have to do it. You understand? And you got to discipline yourself to be able to do this stuff. So that's one. We always got more in entrepreneurship as well, but there's good jobs that could advance you and you could live a way better quality of life than sometimes entrepreneurs. Also, the working class, this is something that I struggle with understanding for a while. They're way more valuable and they have way more access to mortgages, loans, and things from the financial institutions as opposed to entrepreneurs, because a lot of entrepreneurs are liabilities, because if majority of the small ones they're not even doing I wasn't, but we wasn't even doing we bookkeeping properly, paying taxes, doing the things that you need to do to be have a good portfolio to financial institutions. So just remember, as a working class person too, it's not just about working for your paycheck every month. It's about working to build the portfolio and leveraging and accessing all the benefits that the financial institutions will give you as a working person. And maybe as opposed to promoting a paycheck, let's focus more on promoting the things that you have access to with your job. You understand? And then I always tell young people don't listen to your parents no more. Because they don't know. They may know, but I don't. Because it's your grandparents and your parents, they only know based on what they went through. Right. But it's a different world we're living in. So we went through that, the principle and the core stuff, I understand you. But in this economy right here, you are not equipped with the knowledge to tell me how to navigate in this Gen Z world that I live in. You understand? So start listening to your parents all the time. They're very fearful. Parents are very fearful, especially the ones that think they're especially that come from a hard life, my grandparents, they're fearful. Things was dirt hard for them. So any little thing they get, they hold on to it tight. You understand? But you have to risk. You understand? If you really want to be like a hardcore entrepreneur, your heart gotta be big. You gotta put it on the line. You gotta put yourself against the test. You gotta take that 20 grand and spend every cent and go against the grain. You understand? Like you can't first of all, you can't my parents they would be hold on to money, but why would they hold on to money if money devaluing by the second? 50 grand that you had in your account, that 50 grand doing less and less and less by the minute. You understand? So take that 50 grand and put it into something that can do a little more tomorrow. You understand? Earlier this year, I spent every cent, not every cent, but enough. Enough upon saying that I put out this summer and they clean up the road this summer, you understand? And it's my parents would tell me, nah, because they're this thing of seeing live money in your account, but that value. So yeah, start listening to your parents, for sure. They're fearful. And start thinking me know is purposely dressed like this here all the time because to me I the face of a new age. You understand? It's good to my business meeting in short pants. You understand? It's good to business meeting in Jordans, gold chain, shirts. You understand? My check is still clear. Got people in suit and tell them checks his bones. You understand? No disrespect, isn't it? But I just saying sometimes we be too caught up in how it package and not what in the package. You understand? So yeah, all that is.
Right. All right, good. Yeah, so yeah, and you're right, it is a new age, and I think my understanding is that many successful businesses, the people that own them have had multiple failures with other enterprises before they get the one that sticks. So evidently with entrepreneurship, the idea of being careful excessively runs the risk of you not being able to get that big break. So I would like to again thank the panel, Mr. James Clark, President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Caleb Braffett, President of the Barbados Youth Development Council, and Mr. Jordan English, prominent youth entrepreneur, entertainer. I don't know what else you don't do, but very prominent young person in the country, very well known. So thank you everyone for coming once again, and you guys can make your way back to the seat. Round of applause for the panel. All right. At this point, we will have our final entertainer for the night, Miracle, who will be performing Lucy by Destroy. Another round of applause for Miracle.
Grew up as a real good girl, always home, don't go nowhere. As soon as I was introduced to carnival, they say I lose all tongue on the ground. Walking on my bottom and it jogging all over tongue, and they say I lose it. Was never a party girl, my superstar I used to go. But since I was introduced to carnival, they say I lose. When I drop it hot and I whining, I top the speaker bass and I grinding, and I don't want to stop, and they call me Lucy. I lose to that, Lucy, I sweeter that, juicy. This kind of a high man, so damn loose. Hey, get loose away, get loose away, get loose away, loosen your waist, kill them with the pace. There's no place I'd rather be than in a bed, having a time. For those who advise to see me acting up and whining loose, all tongue on the ground, walking on my bottom, and it jogging all over tongue, and I say I lose it. I never meant to be this way. It's deep back down inside of me. When I come on the stage, getting nobody know I lose. When I drop it hot and I whining, I top the speaker bass and I grinding, and I don't want to stop. Call me Lucy. I lose to that, Lucy, I sweeter than juicy. This kind of a high so damn loose. Hey, get loose away, get loose away, get loose away, loosen your waist, kill them in the face. Now show me your softness, show me your winter practice. Lucy is a carnivalist, and that is why I behave so loose. All tongue on the ground, walking on my bottom, and it's jogging all over tongue, and I say I lose it. I grew up as a real good girl, always home, don't go nowhere. As soon as I was introduced to carnival, say I lose all tongue on the ground. Walking on my bottom and it dragging all over tongue and it say I lose it. I lose it and lose it, I sweet it and juice it. This kind of heart man so damn loose. Hey, get loose away, get loose away, get loose away, get loose. Loose it, I lose it and loose it, I sweet it and juice it. This kind of heart man so damn loose. Hey, get loose away, get loose away, get loose away, loosen your waist, kill them in the face. Now show me a slackness, show me your winter practice. Loose is a kind of balance, and that is why I behave so loose. All tongue on the ground, walking on my bottom, and it's dragging all over tongue, and it say I lose it, I lose it, I sweet it and juice it. It's so damn loose. Get loose, get loose, get loose, get loose, get loose. Queen of Bacchanal. Thank you very much.
So it is me again, coming from the back. I just want to thank everyone for coming out today. I really thank our title sponsor for putting this together, the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited. I also like to thank the National Cultural Foundation for also being a sponsor. We have been streaming live, and I know we also do have a live audience, and I can assure you that everything that was said today is going to be documented. You're going to see proposals, ministers, coming to your desk. Every single thing that would have said, my team is going to be reviewing it, ensuring that it can be documented, and ensure that we can work collectively to advance youth development in this country, because this is what this panel discussion was about, looking at how we can come together, bring various stakeholders, and chart a way forward as we seek to create bonds and strengthen communities. So thank you very much, everyone.